Good night, Barbados. Good night, Barbados. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks show, and we are coming to you live from nowhere else but Barbados. Barbados, seeming like a little dot in the Caribbean, but it's such a beautiful, beautiful place. It's paradise. It's blue. When you think of Barbados, you think of blue, beautiful waters, kind of blue like what I'm wearing, kind of like that, but blue. That's what you think of. It's beautiful Barbados, and we are excited tonight, aren't we? Aren't we excited? I see Stefano Demaro, who was first on, and I have to give him credit to that. Stefano was on from 6:30 p.m. this evening. Good night, Tracy Barrow. Good night, Monica Ince. Oh, good night, loyal daughter. 6 to 6. How are you? How are you? Oh, Reiko. Sawabona. Someone, you were first on Wednesday, but someone was first tonight, and it wasn't you, but you were on at 6:55. Gelbis, I saw you today and your family. Oh my God, this is an awesome family. And we're going to talk about the press conference, but she was at the press conference with her entire family. Yes, yes, yes. Natasha Hope. Hi, Natasha. Heathcliff. Yes, yes. The battle has just begun. Sir Alfred Benjamin from New York City, Brooklyn, New York City. I used to live in Queens. Actually, we lived in Queens and then we moved over to Elmont, Long Island. Yes. Tony Paris. Good night, loyal opposition. Peatway. Peatway. Yes. Good evening, the effective opposition crew. Tonight is a special night, people. Tonight is a special night. Tonight, anyone can tell me why tonight is special? Tonight is a special night. We have so much to be thankful for. You know, this move to take back our country, this move to take back our rightful place is one of faith. And you don't have to go to church to have faith. You know, it has nothing to do with faith. You're born with it. When I came to sit in this chair tonight, I didn't check the chair if the chair was good. I just came and I sat on it, right? That's faith. You believe in something. And what do you believe in tonight? We believe in change. We believe that this country can change. We believe that something great is happening. We believe that there's a door, that little opening, and we are putting pressure and prying that door open. If you believe it, give this broadcast some thumbs up, please, on YouTube. I am excited inside because Barbadians are waking up. Things are happening in Barbados. People are understanding their rights. And we're going to talk about that. Nigel is here and he's going to talk to us about that and remind us about our rights as citizens of Barbados, as citizens, that nobody can take that away. Nobody can take away our citizenship. But we're not going to sit down and let people take our citizenship. As Gelbiz says, we are making inroads. That's what is happening. That's what is happening. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, we have to keep pushing until we really realize that that positive change. That's what loyal daughter 606 is saying. Anybody feel energized tonight? Anybody feel energized? Anybody feel that that Bussa generation rising up? Bussa generation rising up? Anybody feel that rising up happening? It's a Bussa generation that's rising up inside. Yeah, that's who we are. Loyal opposition. We're pressing on. We're pressing on. Yes, Beverly says, good night to you all, faithful opposition. Loyal. Loyal daughter 66 says, I am proud of my people. Yes. Can I tell you why I'm proud of my people tonight? I'm proud of my people because On Monday, we were on the show. Monday on Errol Barrow Day when we celebrated it, the holiday for Errol Barrow. And at the end of the show, I said, Mr. Franklin, let's have a press conference. We need to do a press conference and present our questions. We're going to read through the Barbados Identity Management Act. We're going to read through what is on the Trident website. And we're going to remove all of the airy-fairy stuff and all the all the theories that they're talking about. We're going to move all of that and look at the facts that's before us. We're going to come up with questions, and we're going to ask the government questions. In fact, it was Miss McLean who said, let's take these questions to the government. And so we left this program Monday night, and today's Friday. And through the help of this opposition, you see, we were able to stage a very successful press conference today. Very successful press conference today. And it is through your help. Through your help, we were able to wage war today. Right there at Unity Workers Union, we came together, and it wasn't just a few of us, but the room was full. The room was full. We couldn't take anybody else. In fact, there were a couple of people standing up on the outside because we came there. We wanted everyone. We wanted the government to realize that it wasn't a few rabble-rousers, as they're saying, just a few people that they don't like the prime minister and a few people don't like the government. But they came out, Beverly, and these people came out and they showed the media and the government that there is a face to us. We are people. There is a face to us. And our Barbadian people were not afraid. I love that. I will not forget this moment today. They came out. They took pictures. They allowed their faces to be seen. They took pictures. Yes, this Barbadian people came out and they meant business. You could feel the energy. When I stood at the podium, I felt the energy of my brothers and sisters behind me and the support. And this support did not just happen, Michelle Grant. Yes, Barbadians, stand up for your right. Victory is ours. Yes, victory is ours. It didn't just start there when the press conference started. On my way to the press conference, I got a call from a loyal opposition. CG is what she goes by on here, and that's what I'll call her. CG called me. She was at the location already, getting the place ready, you all. That was 8:30 for a press conference that started 10:30. You understand that we mean business? But oh Lord, I got so much energy out of that. When I got there, CG had gotten I've started cleaning the carpet, packing out the chairs. You understand? She started removing everything and setting up everything. When I got there, she was moving, sweating. By the time we got there this morning, that is the kind of people that we're talking about. Kathy Weeks left St. Philip early and came down and started helping her. And all of us, there's no big me or little me. We all rolled up our sleeves and started moving chairs and setting up, taking off our shoes. And we just got to work, because this is not about celebrity. This is not about we're sitting back and watching what they are doing. No. It's a woman like Lisa Niles that I got off my phone, off this call, and I messaged her and I said, Lisa, I gotta talk to you tomorrow morning early. I need you to help me to put these questions together. And Lisa Niles spent hours and put the questions together. Yes, Miss McLean, and we met together on Zoom, the three of us, and we worked on the questions. And then we worked on the press, the invite to the press, putting it together. It was a team effort, is what I want to say. to everybody here. We all contributed something. It wasn't about any celebrity, it's not about any personality. It's everybody asking, what can I do for my country? What can I do? And when that Kemar Stewart heard that Mr. Franklin was not going to be able to make it, as you know, he has the flu. And let's hasten to say that he has the flu because you know that they're going to say the man is dying. The man has the flu that almost every Barbadian has this flu. Thank God I haven't caught it. But when Kemar heard that, we then decided, Kemar, you take up the rear of this press conference, and that young man stepped up. He stepped up like a Bussa. He was like a Bussa in the place, I tell you. And of course, they picked up on what he said and put that in the 12 o'clock news. And I tell you, they highlighted that in the news. And by the end of the news, we were told that they now postpone the January 31st deadline. Of course, we're going to get into that a bit more. And what are the implications of that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Did you all hear Kemar? Anybody heard Kemar? Oh my God, when I listened to him, I said, oh Lord, who is this? That young man stepped up. That young man stepped up. I was, oh Lord. I felt like I had a son. Yeah. Sir Alfred, the deadline removed. And as I know it, I believe this is about the third deadline that has been removed. And I've seen the general coming in. But before he comes in, and I know he's setting up himself to come in, I want to just bring in Mr. Newton. Mr. Newton, oh my Lord, how are you tonight?
I am overjoyed, Marcia. I am overjoyed. And it is an honor to be of service to the people of Barbados at this level. And I appreciate the Marcia Wheat Show for giving me this opportunity. Now, I must say that today's press conference was a magnificent demonstration of the duty of responsible citizenship. The duty of responsible citizenship. You see, we grew up and we have gotten so accustomed to the toxic political culture that has developed over the years that we have allowed politicians and political parties to do as they please, and as we say in Barbados, get away with murder. But times have changed, and we, the people, are no longer prepared to tolerate ignorance from the government. We are a people of dignity, and we will demand respect from any government or institution. Now, so I am drawing from my personal philosophy of life to share with Barbadians the significance or the importance of having a philosophy of life, one, and two, the significance of responsible citizenship. And I would like to preface my presentation with the with two paragraphs from the recommendations contained in the report of the Constitution Review Commission. That's the Fourth Commission on Constitution Review, which was done between 1997, and the report was presented in December 1998. And on page 6, the intent of this report says it gives the responsibilities of the state and I quote, "The the state shall respect democratic principles and the fundamental rights and freedoms proclaimed in this Constitution, and encourage and facilitate the widest possible participation in all the processes and institutions of government." And the second one, endeavor to operate the machinery of government, including the use and disposition of public finances, with the greatest degree of transparency consistent with good government and the national interest, and in the manner that is in keeping with the democratic vocation of Barbados. I deliberately chose those two paragraphs to preface what I am saying to the citizens of Barbados tonight. And the first thing I would like to bring to your attention, members of the People's Opposition, is first of all, there is a fundamental reason and purpose for life on earth. We are all responsible for discovering and fulfilling that reason or purpose. And I ask, how do we discover our purpose? What must we must be conscious of who we are so that we may investigate the meaning and purpose of life. And the reason I'm saying such is because given the power of government and governmental institutions, they can frustrate us. Like in this case now, they can frustrate us in fulfilling our purpose in life. So we need to remember that there's a meaning and a purpose to life, and we are responsible for fulfilling it. The second thing I would want to draw to your attention is that each of us has an unchallenged expectation of freedom, justice, and the unalienable right to pursue the meaning and purpose of life with dignity, responsibility, and accountability. Now, I should have alerted you. When I give you these, uh, when I give you these from my philosophy of life, when I share these with you, I want you to try to discover to what extent they relate to you and to what extent you think the government can frustrate you in seeking justice, freedom, and the exercise of your unalienable right to pursue meaning in life. And the third thing I wish to share with you is that no individual, group, institution, or government has the authority, right, duty, or moral justification to control humanity. There is absolutely no excuse enabling them to disrespect, disregard, infringe, infringe, or violate the dignity and humanity of any individual or abuse his or her fundamental human right. And I'm saying to you, members of the People's Opposition, our human rights are what they are, regardless of government's fancy or inclination. No other institution or government has the legal or moral right to unilaterally control or dictate the destiny of individuals. And you would recall that from 2000 and May 25th, 2018, this government has been doing that. And we are saying tonight, enough is enough, and we will not tolerate or accept governmental abuse or disrespect any longer. So that today was a magnificent demonstration of the duty of responsible citizenship. And note that before our press conference was completed, the government had already backpedaled because we took our responsibilities as of citizens of Barbados to say to the government, no, you are not getting away with this one. Okay, the fourth thing I want to share with you is that each citizen has a moral obligation to resist any individual, institution, organization, or government which seeks to control or dictate the, your individual destiny. Together, we have the right, duty, and moral responsibility to resist and take down any organization, institution, or government which disrespect, which abuses its designated power and uh, um, and seek to control the destiny of citizens. Neither do they have, and I want to bring this in deliberately, neither do they, that is, the institutions and government, have the authority to deny or violate the sanctity of the citizens' parental right, duty, and responsibility. And I am alluding to the Child Justice and the Child Rights Bill, and so on and so forth. We have a duty and a responsibility to resist tyranny and oppression, regardless of who may be the originator of such. You would have heard me mention in my one of my earlier presentations referring to traditional African constitutional law and to Professor Madden. Now, let me go back there and bring forward and give a greater explanation. When the British colonial officials sought to dominate the chiefs and kings of Africa, the people themselves intervened and said to the king and the chief, no, you can't do this to us. You can't do this to us. And they told the British official point blank, let me put it this way, point blank, this is our country. And you are not coming in here to dictate and to control our lives. And each time the British officials forced or had the chief or king do or commit an act that displeased the people had the absolute power and authority to take them down, to dethrone them. That is the kind of background we came from. But Professor Madden and the British, they went in there, and in order to take control and dominate, they instituted what they call democracy. No. And the people said to them, no, we're not having it. Tonight, we have a government that believes it has absolute power and authority to disregard, disrespect, and disrespect our fundamental rights, duties, and responsibilities. And we are saying to the government, no, you're not doing it. We will not accept it. And today's press conference, and Marcia, I felt really good when Kimar stood up and said to the government, we are going to take you to court. Pull back, rescind, postpone, because if you don't do it, we are taking the fight, we are bringing the fight to you. A clear example of the duty of responsible citizenship. I am saying to you, citizens of Barbados, rise up, stand up, and take control of your destiny out of the hands of what I call these sick-minded politicians.
Wow. Oh my God. Mr. The duty of responsible citizenship. And that is what, when the reporter said to us, Mr. Newton, who are you guys? You said we are citizens. We are the
Exactly.
citizens of Barbados. That's what we told them. We said we are the citizens of Barbados, and we came together and we put some questions together for the government of Barbados. And we're
Yes.
asking the media to be that go between to get this to them for us. Huh?
Yes.
Get this quickly
Yes.
to them for us. And that's why they had us on the 12 o'clock news on StarCom.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yes.
and
So
yeah, because they were taking the message to us because we were citizens. We're not any political party. We didn't go with any
right.
group name. We didn't use a group name. We didn't even use the Marcia Week show. We said we are citizens of Barbados.
Right. Yes. And we do have a moral and ethical right to be good citizens. And we have a right to hold the government accountable. Because, as I said earlier, the government can abuse its power and authority and frustrate us in discovering the meaning and purpose of life so that we, and they can deny or obliterate our expectation of freedom, justice, and the unalienable right to discover the meaning and purpose of life. The government can do it, but we are saying to the government, you will not do it to us. You will not.
Yes, most definitely. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And as you talk about the duty of responsible citizenship, the person who comes to mind right away, one of my heroes, my modern day heroes, is Mr. Caswell Franklin. Honest to God,
Indeed.
listen, did you see the
Yes, yes.
newspaper? You saw the newspaper last night and early this morning.
I haven't read it yet because I was so busy, but I have a copy of it. But
Listen,
yes, yes, Marcia. Yes, Marcia.
the newspaper talks about this, and we are celebrating so many things. Mr.
Right.
Caswell Franklin, who is on, and I'm hoping he's ready to speak to us. But Mr. The tribunal, they ruled that it was wrong, it was illegal for companies, for private entities to say to Barbadian employees that you cannot work, you cannot come on the compound, you cannot work unless you have taken that thing in your arm.
Yeah.
And you remember, we were saying that it was illegal. We were
Right.
saying that it was discrimination. We were saying that they were breaking the law. And the government says, well, we are not making it mandatory, but then they did not penalize the companies. They
Right.
allowed the companies to carry out their dirty work. The private enterprise carried out their dirty work in making it mandatory to get that thing in your arm. And people lost their jobs because of that in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yet last night the ruling came. And it is Mr. Franklin who is not a lawyer. He's a trade unionist, a trade union leader of Unity Workers Union. And he represented this particular young woman. Mr. Franklin, good night. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm here. Good night, everyone. I'm
Good night,
still a
sir.
bit under the weather and I'm a bit nasal and sneezy and things. But I took some medication and it's supposed to make me drowsy. So, if you don't hear me
Okay.
at one point in time, I might be. But I'm going to try to
Yeah,
stay up.
yes, I know. We're trying to hear. Can you hear him well? Can you hear him well, Nigel?
Yes, I can hear him. I can hear him.
Okay, great, great. And let me just check if the viewers can hear him well. As you know, Mr. Franklin has the flu,
Right.
and yes, Mr. Franklin has the flu. So yes, so here it is. Mr. Franklin, let me tell you something. As Miss Nigel was speaking about the duty of responsible citizenship, I think of you, sir. Here is the newspaper article: Landmark Employment Rights Tribunal ruling on those injections. It dropped out. Mr. Franklin, I don't think we have him on. He dropped out. He's going to come back in.
Right.
Yes,
But
this is what
Marcia,
is happened. Yes,
Yes, I'm glad you raised Mr. Franklin because he did a, a single-handed job, I must say, at first, in resisting the tyranny of this government. He is a classic example of the duty of one exercising the duty of responsible citizenship. He could have done like others, but he took his duty and responsibilities as a citizen of Barbados seriously. And tonight, we are reaping the benefits of that. And I would like to appeal to all Barbadians: follow the example of Mr. Caswell Franklin. Follow the example of those of us who are standing up and taking full responsibility for ourselves and exercising our duty and responsibility as good citizens.
yes. I think with what has happened, let me see, he's having trouble coming in. We're not gonna stop. We're gonna make sure that Mr. Franklin, those of you who know to pray, please pray. Mr. Franklin, as our friend in Trinidad, Naeem in Trinidad is sending a special shout out to Mr. Franklin because they are doing their own duty there in Trinidad. And this news was sent all over Trinidad, Bahamas, Jamaica. They were sending thumbs up because the entire Caribbean was going through this thing during that time. Mr. Franklin, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. I had a
Yes.
little. Cause I couldn't hear you for a bit, so I had to go out and come back a couple of times. But I'm here now.
Yes,
Nothing is
sir.
going to
So
stop me.
talk to us about this case without trying using that V word, and talk to us and the process of it and where we are today with this case. We're so proud of you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I'm proud of the lady who stood up because there are so many people in this position. And this one lady, she allowed her name to go forward in this matter. And she fought, and she should really be commended because then well, several of them came to see me, but she was the only one who, in the end, actually went all the way. The process is that if you believe that you were discriminated against by your employer, you can make a written complaint to the chief labor officer. The chief labor officer would then try to resolve the dispute between the two parties and seek the process they call conciliation. And at which point, the labor department does not impose a settlement. They allow you to and fro, but they just have like referees so as to keep
Yes.
the thing civil. And then we make our own decisions. Well, the company, Rubis, they were adamant. As a matter of fact, they had even suspended her on without pay for a week to force her to come back, but she would not. So at the hearing, at the conciliation meeting rather, we were able to convince them that that move was wrong because suspension without pay in Barbados is tantamount to constructive dismissal. You can actually dismiss a person by not paying them
Right.
because that is a fundamental breach of your contract. So if a person uh, suspends you without pay, unless it is a part of a disciplinary matter where you had a disciplinary hearing, and in the rules of the company or your contract, there is provision for a suspension as one of the punishments, then they can do so. But once you did not have a hearing for that suspect to be suspended, so they couldn't do it. So they relented and paid back the money. So when we went to the tribunal, and it took a while because the Labor Department wasn't ready, people from Rubis was overseas, and other kind of stuff, they would like to blame it all on us that we were late. But we weren't tardy. We were there trying to get the matter heard. Eventually, we had a hearing before a panel of the tribunal consisting of the chairman is Kathy Hamblin, Freddie Ford, and Leighton Marshall. We contended from the very start that this case does not need um, all this big legal proceedings and stuff. I have a real problem with the tribunal going through all the legal proceedings, but this was too basic. The question remains: did the company have the right to insist that you can take a vaccine, that you can take any sort of medical test, rather? They cannot require you, according to the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, Section 6. It prevents an employer from requiring you to bring a certificate, or to get a medical test to determine if you should either get a job or retain a job. And there are a few exceptions. And the exceptions are, it's like if you are in a situation like food handling where you have to have a good medical health, a good condition. If that is the case, they can, and you are handling food or something like that, then the employer can send you. But if you are not one of those areas where your job has that type of it, you got to be physically and mentally fit.
Yeah.
They can't do that to you. So she's been working for a number of years, 20, I think it is, and she's never been asked to go to get uh, something from the doctor to say, or to take a test, or to take any sort of medical treatment. That is against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And she refused. So that is all the tribunal really had to determine, if this
Yeah.
was if this was within the law. And the other side, they put a lot of arguments and try to cite other pieces of legislation, the Safety and Health at Work Act, that makes the employer liable to provide a safe place of work and that kind of thing. Our response, and I think it was misunderstood by the tribunal as well. We were saying that this act was put in place, the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, in 2021 during the pandemic. So
Mm-hmm.
if government had it in their mind to require a testing or any sort of jokes to either get a job or to retain it, they should have put it in the legislation. And then failing that, the Prime Minister, who took up all tremendous powers unto herself, could have put it in one of the directives. She didn't.
Yes.
You see, and we are saying, so I'm not looking at those other pieces of legislation. Those pieces of legislation can stand, but they cannot stand against this one that says you cannot require a medical test. That was basically our case. And eventually the tribunal did 17 pages of stuff, but all it boils down to is they did not have the right. This act says so. And I'll tell you something, Marcia. I just came back from the drugstore because I went to the doctor, and while I was waiting for my medication, a couple of people
Mhm.
came up and thanked me for this thing because they were in the same boat. People are asking them what was wrong with them. You cannot ask a person what his medical condition is. All a person has to do in
Yes.
Barbados, if you are sick and you got to get more than 2 days, you go to the doctor. The doctor will give you a certificate that says that you are unwell and you are
Mhm.
fit to resume work. That is between your doctor and you and nobody else. Maybe national insurance, but that is why national insurance now do not allow doctors to give that yellow form as a certificate for the employer. You know, the national insurance department, they they would give you these forms for the doctors to give doctors these forms to fill out when the person is getting sick leave. Once upon a time, the doctor would give you one and a duplicate. One would go to the national insurance, which would be the original, and then the the duplicate would go to your workplace. But we had a situation where those duplicates were being abused.
Uh-huh.
People were passing them around offices, telling everybody here what he got, and that kind of thing. So national insurance decided, nah, one certificate for us. You can write what was that the person is on sick leave, granted by you, who is a registered medical practitioner in Barbados, and that is all the employer needs to know is that a doctor who is registered in Barbados has determined that you are unfit for work. The employer does not have to know. It is not his business. And
Right.
but we are even finding this happening in government departments. I just recently I had cases where defense, they don't call it defense and security, no, they call it national um, security, whatever else. But they are requiring guards to bring that yellow thing and say they need it for the Ministry of Public Service. That is not the Ministry of Public Service business. You know what? Because the Ministry of Public Service business, if you are claiming that you're unfit for work and can't work anymore, that's where it comes to your business. Because one know what ails you. Because if it's something from work, it could depend on the type of compensation you would get. So what this thing has done to us today is to let you know, one, your illness is not anybody's business, and
Exactly.
and how you get it treated is nobody's business either but yours. So we should really be grateful for the tribunal's decision. It was long in coming, and but those all good things come to those who wait, and this is a good thing. Right now, I think a lot of employees are breathing a sigh of relief because people just tell them, "Oh, you go to the doctor." You can't send anybody to the doctor in order to keep a job or to get one. As a matter of fact, if they hadn't paid her when we insisted at the department level, they would have to have paid compensation. But we did not ask for any monetary compensation for the applicant because she didn't lose anything financially. So we were not looking to make money. We were looking to get our rates determined so that not only her, but every other person in Barbados would be able to determine or to say to an employer, very sorry, sir, but you can't ask me that.
I'm sorry. In a
Yeah.
nutshell, Mr. Franklin, can you, those who are watching, there are over 400 persons watching tonight. Some are watching from Jamaica, some are watching from Trinidad because they would have seen the ruling. What is it? What does this ruling say to us in Barbados and throughout the Caribbean, to workers? What does this mean?
Well, well, this is specific legislation in Barbados.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
do not know the legislation in the other places. So, but in Barbados for sure, no employer, even when he's recruiting, can ask you to go and get a medical test unless he is recruiting you for some type of food handling or some job where your health uh, has to would impact on the job.
Mm.
So that is now confirmed by the tribunal, and I don't think. Well, I don't know if Rubis will apply, will appeal to the court, the High Court, the Court of Appeal. Sorry, but there's no need for that. Because the matter is too clear. It is legislation. You do not have to do a lot. It is a statute here in Barbados. The Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, Section 6.
Mhm.
Hi, Caswell, are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
still here.
Franklin?
Yes, I'm still
Yes.
here.
Yes. Go ahead,
So
please.
what we so for the other people in the region that you're asking, um, their legislation would speak to that if they have that type of legislation. But we only got this legislation in 2021. You remember
Mm.
the day when they walked out of Parliament when Lisa Cummings came in and they were saying that she bring COVID there?
Yes.
That was the day they passed it behind my back. It wasn't supposed to be debated that day either, but they passed it. And the thing is, Tony Moore, who was supposed to walk out with us and agreed to walk out with us, turned back and went to debate it. Never forget that.
Mm.
Never trusted her again either. Didn't trust her much. But then that took away everything else. So we are now should not be more comfortable as workers in this country to say that we have a particular right guaranteed us by the law, unless the government changes it. But what is striking though, Marcia,
Hmm.
the government passed this piece of legislation saying that nobody can ask you to go through a medical procedure or in order to get a job or to keep a job. And they did it with the nurses. Even
Yes.
though they had passed that piece of legislation. And the legislation applies to the state. And she and the government put up a notice at the geriatric hospital telling the nurses you have to get these um, swabs done. If you refuse to get the actual thing, then you have to get it done every week. But we had told
Hmm.
them that if that ever came about, we will
Right.
take immediate industrial action without any further reference to them. And they did it. And we kept our word. But this was the government playing bully. Having passed legislation just a few months earlier, want to come and disobey it because the law don't apply to the government out here, not even the ones that should. They do what they like. So now we are so even now in the public service or in the private sector, you can't ask people the business. So
Well, job well done. I know that in St. Vincent, when they had it was ruled in their favor that it was unconstitutional for the government to have fired those teachers and all those public servants. You remember that?
yes, I
And
well remember that. But here unconstitutional actions could only apply to the state. The state will breach your constitutional rights. If you are working for me and I could do anything that the Constitution says I can't do, you have to find a remedy outside of the Constitution because those constitutional motions apply to the state. So the government of St. Lucia actually did it to those people so they can file the
Saint
constitutional
Vincent,
motion.
Saint Vincent,
Sorry, St.
Saint
Vincent, sorry.
Vincent.
I remember when Gonzalez got the rock. But
Mhm.
so 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 we had to go, but it would be better because right now we have the Employment Rights Tribunal, and the process should be not as onerous as it would be in a court. As a matter of fact, the tribunals are designed for lay people to go and plead their own case, right? The problem here is that the lawyers know how to do law and know how to plead in the court. So when you have a tribunal that was chaired by lawyers and they're trying to practice the tribunal work the way you practice in the high court. And I always tell people, if you want to learn how to operate a tribunal, go and ask um, Senator Tate to sit in at her, because she chairs one of the seven payments tribunals. She doesn't go through all this rigmarole that people do before the high court. She gets to the facts of the matter and decide the matter very quickly. She doesn't dilly dally, right? But that is how it should be done. But we try, but these other people try to do it the way it is done in court, and that is a deterrent for people, one, who don't have lawyers, who can't afford a lawyer, or if you're not a member of a union. But the law is that you can bring a friend, not necessarily me, your buddy on the road that you used to pitch marbles with, but the friend does not have to be um, legally trained. You don't have to be legally trained. You just want to present the facts. But we need in Barbados the tribunal to to be governed by a particular set of rules and not the same type of rules that you have in the court. The tribunals were intended to do swift justice. But you have cases going on 5 years, 6 years. I had one that was 7, you know. And that's not what the tribunal was intended to do. Because if you want to keep it 6 or 7 years, you can let go to the high court. Because that's what the high court do anyhow. They keep them for a lot of years. But this is not what was intended. As a matter of fact, under the Employment Rights Act, you can only appeal on a point of law when you, because the Court of Appeal made it quite clear, and I think it's also the CCJ, that people who sit on these tribunals are experts in the field. They know their stuff. So you don't need a court to decide. And the court will only disturb a judgment of a tribunal if it was so perverse that it couldn't possibly come to that conclusion. But otherwise, the court will tell you we were not there, and when you were given evidence, or the other people were given evidence, so you judged the people based on them. But yet still, the tribunals try to belittle courts. I remember once telling the chairman of a tribunal, a Sarah's Permanent Tribunal, I probably was a bit offensive too. I said, sir, listen to me. You are a lawyer. I know you're a lawyer. But this is the court. If you want to be a judge, apply. And do it do it that way. But right now you're supposed to listen to lay people, explain what happened to them. And another thing now with the tribunals that I must say to you, The act provides that the tribunal can award monetary compensation to you. However, if the employer fails to pay, they said that it can be treated as though it was a judgment in the magistrate's court. However, the government nor the Chief Justice has ever put in place rules of procedure how to get that done. So if you take the matter to the magistrate's court, the magistrates will tell you, but I don't know what to do. So it is not that, that there is no rule to that effect that you could get the money this way. It is that if an employer play the fool, the Chief Justice has not issued any practice directions to the court to tell them this is how you proceed, or they have not done any rules. So tell Colin Jordan, instead of walking about talking foolishness, these are things that you should concentrate on, rather than tell people that the act needs amending because it's too onerous on employers. It's supposed to be onerous on employers. Make them behave. And what you call onerous, all that is required is that an employer does the right thing. If he accuses you of something wrong, he must give you the opportunity to be heard. And if he doesn't do that, there is an automatic unfair dismissal there. So what is so wrong with that? Or what does the minister believe is wrong with that? That somebody could just kick you to the curb? No, he got to hear you. And if he does not give you that right to be heard, so if I have an employee who misbehaves, I would have a hearing with them. Tell them why you're behaving so. Because I remember a day, I'll never forget this. I went to represent a man at the airport. He had actually left the gate open. I went across by the shop drinking rum. And of course, David Thompson was Prime Minister at that time, and he, he came in, and he was leaving the island, so now he would drive out there. Nobody was there to open the gate and close it because the gate was already open. So everybody embarrassed now. And they knew who was supposed to be there, so they brought charges against him. And of course, now he was a member of my union, and I had to go and represent him. And everybody, from the chief of security, all the other people in the airport, were saying, "But he's such a nice fella." And the chief said, "But I used to allow him to act when the supervisors was off because he has potential, and he do this here to me now, and I don't know what to do at all." Because the man is obviously guilty. They find out they were drinking Mongier Silver. I found out about some name so at at the shop across the river airport. So I said to him, "Tell me something. You get a horn?" And he said, the HR director of the airport said, "Mr. Franklin, thank you. We don't need you anymore. He is not the first fella to get horned, and he's not going to be the last. We're going to take care of him." But if they did not give him a hearing, nobody would know that he needed help. They would have just fired him like that. And because this was such a serious offense, they could have fired him. You know? So you got to give people a
Wow.
hearing.
Yes, 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 yes. And as someone is saying, we are so grateful that you're here to be able to interpret the law for a lot of employees in Barbados. Those of you who are listening from overseas, I know when I talk to people like in Jamaica and other islands, they would say, "So where's the union?" And we say, "Listen, we only have one proper union in Barbados. The rest of them, they are siding with the government. They're sold out to the government. They just can't believe it. They just can't believe when we tell them these things. But this is what has happened." And as a finite wonder is saying, fantastic, Caswell, we are thanking you for standing up for workers' rights in Barbados. And wherever you are in Barbados, you need to know there is someone who is going to stand up for the rights of workers. And as you just heard, that the present Minister of Labor is actually seemingly wanting to change the laws in favor of employers.
Yes, he made that statement. He said it's onerous, and they actually, mind you, they actually drafted rules and circulating them. I made changes to the act and circulating them. Mind you, they have not circulated them to me because they don't want me to see them up front. Because there's foolishness. The act doesn't have any major problems with it. All the act has is that an employer cannot mistreat his employees, and you have to give them the right to be heard. And if you don't do that, you will pay a compensation. If like for instance, if you go and make people redundant in Barbados, you have to consult with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, it doesn't. It is no longer redundancy, but unfair dismissal. And when you file for unfair dismissal, and you have been employed for over 9 years, 10 years or more, you get more money than if you were getting severance pay. So that's what hurt the employers, because when they do it wrong, they got to end up paying the larger sum. Because you know if you're making them redundant, consult. I had a case where a man made a person redundant, and you must if the consultation doesn't take place, you would have to be in a situation where you are sending home less than 10% of your 10% or some significant number.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, he had about 8 workers in his place, and he sent home 1. I said, that's more than 10%. I took him to tribunal and won. Because in this case, he, he was one of those employers who got himself involved with one of the workers, and when she decided she done with that, he decided, he could barely see her in the office anymore, and not getting that pleasures, and he fired her.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for him, and he he got what he deserved. That man even went to beat the new boyfriend and all. I think police. Yeah. Not
You
going
know,
to call his name or his profession, because people know who he is. I don't want to embarrass him any further. I did enough of that at the conciliation, because they told him, if you don't settle, I'm going to go before the tribunal and tell him that you're facing shit for you. And he started to cry, but he said he ain't gonna pay. You know.
Mr. Mr. Franklin, I tell you, you listen, not a thing, all that happened to you, all of those that love to talk about you talking, pretending like you're gonna fall down and things. They know that all that wrong with you is that you have a little cold. That's all. Because the
That does.
humor is still there. Selma, you were dying. Listen, Miss McLean, welcome. Good night. Good night. What a way to welcome you. Pure laughter. What, what we're gonna do with casual? Not even when you have a
Listen,
flu, we can stop it.
I have known Caswell for 40 years.
Yes.
40. I wanna say though, congratulations to him, because
Thanks, Maxie.
on a
Thanks very
on a
much.
very serious note, I worry about workers' representation in this country. Um, even the, sorry, sorry, my phone talking to itself. I don't know. Um, yeah, I as I said, I'm concerned about the quality of union representation. I've been around long enough to see. I was around when Frank Walcott, as a child, I would have seen Frank Walcott in action. Not Sir Frank Walcott, later Sir Frank as he was. And I've seen the people come through the movement in terms of the Barbados Workers Union, the National Union of Public Workers. And outside of unity, the trade union movement is at its lowest ebb on so many fronts. And so I think that in Mr. Franklin, there's that opportunity for Barbadian workers to still find serious representation. You were saying at the beginning, because I was listening when you started,
Mhm.
that Caswell is not a lawyer, but he knows the law very well. I always used to ask him, why you don't go and practice? But he probably knows why he didn't want to join that company of persons. I don't know. But he does know the law. And I can tell you, he might not tell you this, but I know a lot of lawyers who consult him on interpreting certain things. So I also want to say thank you, Marcia. I came home and thanks to Caswell for providing physical space today for the press conference that you had. I came home this afternoon in time to hear the press conference being attacked by some people who probably heard just one element, but who, everything. I mean, one woman was saying, I've heard her voice over and over again. Oh, the people got to stop being political. Now, I want to say this to Barbadians. Matters of government are matters of politics. What they mean is that they want you to stop being partisan political, and that is not what happens here. Um, that is not what happens here at all. People have issues to raise. I think that you and I know that you keep recognizing the team effort. Um, but I also, in the same way that we recognize the grit and determination, I must recognize this little but Talawa, a woman. I know the expressions. That, for those who don't know, is a Jamaican expression. It's a lickle, but
Look at
Talawa,
yeah.
right? But and there's a determination, and I think it is about standing up for principle and those kinds of things. I want to give the government some advice. They may not listen to me, but I'll give them nevertheless. People normally pay me to give them advice. Um, well, when I was practicing as a management consultant, but they need to stop this what I would call haste, doing things in this hasty manner in which they do things. Stop, consider it in the absence of a formal opposition in parliament, consult the people, even with an opposition. There is a tradition in this country, and I know that we would have done it. I've seen previous administrations of both political parties do it, where there is significant legislation that impacts the people, give them time to look at it. Let the people of various interest groups, I mean, the Bar Association can look at it from a legalistic point of view. If it is a health legislation, health practitioners can look at it. Patient advocates can look at it. Citizens can look at it. But what we have is a situation far from doing that. Things are being snuck through the back door, so to speak. You're bringing these things in the dead of the night, no consultation, badly drafted, no, um, um, you know, working out of the details. I think Caswell referred to, once the bill is passed, you have a piece of legislation, there has to be the operationalizing of that. What are the procedures for making it operational? And look at those things. I mean, to sit down this morning and listen to the list of questions that people have been raising, issues that were translated into questions because there were a lot of misinterpretations or misunderstandings of what the legislation is. And we can genuinely say, and I say it myself, I can't go anywhere or point anybody to anywhere where they can say, okay, help me to understand what exactly is this, in this case, the Trident digital ID card, because it is more than an identification card, and you go through all of those things. far from educating the public, you kind of dance around these issues and expect people to accept that as okay. Because so I really say to those people who and I say from my heart, I'm a member of the Democratic Party. I served as leader of government business in the Senate for 10 years. I served as a minister of government for 10 years. But when I come and sit here, when I discuss issues with you or anybody, it is about Maxine McLean, the citizen, the sister, the daughter of a late couple. Hot and sweaty is the word I was trying to remember. Aunt, great aunt, great aunt. That's who I am. Therefore, I said it before, there are 4 generations of my family alive right now. And I have to be concerned that my niece's grandson can come up in this country and expect to have a good place to live in. I dare, and I say, how dare those people seek to criticize us and judge us on the basis of us trying to make sure that things are done properly for all Barbadians, the ones now and the ones to come, because that's what it's about. If and I will just share this and shut up, because I don't I
No,
go
no,
on
no.
and on and
But
on.
what you're saying is important, because when they make those kinds of statements and they say, because if anybody could watched that press conference today and heard all of those citizens sharing their questions and presenting their questions to the government through the media, and come away from it and say, oh my goodness, this is all about politics, and they're being partisan. Oh my lord, I
Some of those
wonder.
people I have never set eyes on before. It was good
Huh?
to meet them. I said I've not set eyes on some of those people
Never,
before.
right?
The
They
vast
came
majority
out,
of them. They
and,
came because it's important for them.
yeah, Angela is saying that we must not be afraid in our honest discourse. And
Well,
what they're trying to do when they say things like that, it's for us to retreat. But there's no retreat here.
Marcy.
Because once you stand in honesty, there is no retreat. Yes, Miss McLean.
No, I was gonna say anybody who knows me know I'm not afraid. You see, and I will give you an example. I did the calling program on VOB. They used to have a lunchtime one and an evening program at one time. I did both, and I remember one day a senior officer of a bank in town called me and said to me, they could get at you through your son. My son, who is now 32 years old, but who was probably about 6 or 7. I came home, I sat him down, and I said to him, I want a couple of things. Don't eat things from strangers, okay? If people tell you any nonsense, let me or your father know about it and whatever. He was like, probably, why am I going to tell me all these things? I called a good friend of mine. There are a couple of people who I bounce things off of. I called a friend of mine, and I was telling her about it. And then I went to the Bible and I read, fret not thyself by evil doers. You could get the exact thing. And I
Yeah.
went to town on the people and I said, you can threaten me, but don't mess with my child. You understand? I have no fear. I have grown up in this country. I have benefited from all the work of Arabara, because I tell people I'm a child of independence. And I say to people, to whom much is given, much is expected. And long before I got into politics, I just said I know Kazoo for 40 years, and that's because we were volunteers in the cooperative movement. And I will say this, and it's my mantra in relation to credit union, but I'll share it with you here now in this context. There is power in pooling, whether it is pooling our financial resources in the co-op movement, or pooling our time and energies in this program to tell Barbadians that they need to sit up and pay attention to things that matter to them, that will impact on them. So we are pooling our thoughts, our energies, our intellectual capacity, and our commitment to this country. And I dare anybody tell me or you or Caswell or anybody who appears here why we do it. I say to them, if we're doing wrong, come and show us why we're doing wrong and do right by people of this country. Not get on the program and seek to attack people and carry on. I mean, I don't worry about those things,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, I think people need to be reminded that rather than sit down and throw stones at people, pay some attention to what they're saying and what they're doing and why they're doing it. And as we saw today, with what results. I think I did
Yeah.
my little sermon for now.
Yeah, I want to just say something. Maxine says she's
Yes,
not
yes.
afraid. She's not afraid. Well, I have one major fear, and I can share it with you. I'm afraid of what will happen if you don't get rid of this government. I'm very afraid.
Oh, I mean, and
You
that's it. I mean, I'm not afraid to speak. I fear a lot of things, but I'm not afraid. Okay.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid for that. I want to say I don't know that. You know, you were absolutely right when you were talking about bills being sent around and people publishing the official gazette and all kind of stuff. The Employment Rights Act is one of those such bills. It had more than 10 years. It had a gestation period of more than 10 years.
That's correct.
That took a long time, and the minister that sees it by the scruff of the neck and they said, "Well, this can pass," because every minister in the previous administration refused to do it. Even the unions um, opposed it because what the unions were afraid of is that if you put the procedures in law, they won't be able to bully.
Mhm.
The unions will come up and thump the table and keep noise. So the way of
I've seen that.
the way that they'll do business will change. So what they had to do is to re-engineer themselves, get learn new skills, and they didn't want to do that. And then all it's because when you have a situation that says that a tribunal will determine if this worker was right or wrong, go to the tribunal. Don't go out there and demonstrate, and then the employer doesn't pay you, and you still got to come back to the tribunal. Go to the tribunal first. If you have a right, use it. And the unions were afraid
Mhm.
to, to
Mhm.
be to be marginalized. No, you're not marginalized. What happens is that you learn your skills. You don't go in there and with 1 year's experience and keep on doing it over and over and over and over 40 years. You learn, go on, because I tell you, people say, "Oh, I've been doing this thing for 40 years, but you're doing the same thing." You
Yeah.
have to, you have to go and learn how to do things. Like I remember at school, I used to go in the dark room and we used to expose some negatives over a little light and quick so done, and then put it in liquids and stuff, and next we get a picture coming up. The boy don't do that now. You
True.
got you got to learn. You got to learn to adapt. And
Yes.
as the bicycle, this country owes her a debt. If the, for nothing else, I don't used to follow her or anything like that. I follow what she did, but I can tell you this one should go down in history. Like in the United States, they name legislation after the people who sponsor it.
Yeah.
This should really be the as the bicycle act. She made sure against the wishes of the unions because the unions didn't want it passed either. BW fought against it.
Wow. And this was something to protect the workers, and they were
Yes,
fighting against
they,
it
they were
because,
fighting against it.
and people can't see the politics in that.
I remember one minister of labor on the Barbados Labour Party side called me one day crying, actually crying because of what because he wanted to bring it, and he got threatened by the union. But Saku didn't succumb to threats. Saku succumbed. Anyhow, I'm not going to do that to her. Um, she didn't succumb to threats. She um stayed the course, and she got this thing on the ground. And people like Colin Jordan don't want to change it up back to the bad old days. Because prior to this act,
Hmm.
an employer could fire a worker for any reason or for none.
Didn't have
As
to give
long
a reason.
and then as long as and if you have a contract, then you pay you what you tell under the contract. And in that case, it used to be if you get 4 weeks notice, you get 4 weeks notice like along. Even though that law was changed in 71, but people didn't recognize it. And they continued like that until this 2012 legislation actually was 2012, but it only came into force on the 15th of April 2013. And it has been allowing employers to know, yeah, you're the boss, but these are not slaves.
Yes.
And then with the Employment Professional Discrimination Act, which we used, um, like, for this lady, what we must also remember though that there were other people, and I hope that when they got dismissed, that they would have gone to the Labor Department and filed the case for unfair dismissal. Because if the case was filed, you have 90 days in which to report matter to the Labor Department. Time stops running against you when you go to the Labor Department.
Okay.
And as long as you don't go long to keep that case, the case is still alive until it's dismissed or adjudicated.
Settled. Okay.
You know. So what some other people, if they're going to the Labor Department, they can now use this precedent to go, because they will have no, these employers will have no defense, because
Right.
they told people, if you don't take that, you know what, you can't work at my place. So those people know it will be clear and unfair dismissal, and I don't
Correct.
see the tribunal. I don't see the tribunal decided otherwise. Now, having decided that to breach that section of the act is contrary to the law, and she tell them, don't go back and do it again. You have to wait for the state to make such a determination.
But Mr. Franklin, I'm wondering, I remember in that period that the state, at first, it would looked as though they were going to say that thing was mandatory, the jabs in the arm was mandatory, and then they kind of curved and they didn't bother, but then it seemed like they left that up to the private sector to do for them. That's how it
No,
felt to a lot of people, and look
no,
at what has happened.
they coerce the private sector to do it. They
Uh-huh.
tried them. They told them they had meetings with them and tell them
Mm.
to get it implemented. So when the private sector was pushing it, they were pushing it because they knew they had the government's backing. But this government don't hold it back, because when everything hit the fan, them
You're
gone and
right.
left you. You know,
So
these people,
in this case, no, Rubis is getting a bad name out there. But then, what people don't realize or don't remember, that this was really them doing the government's work. That kind of, because in Saint Vincent, the prime minister went ahead and he made it mandatory. But then our prime minister came out and said, no, 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 it's not mandatory. But the private sector was being pushed to put the stick in the people. You see,
Mm.
and that is exactly what they're trying to do. It's a very similar thing with these cards. They're telling us that it's not mandatory, but then they said, but you need to pin it in order to get the services. So for me to even vote, then is it that I have to pin it? I have to what are these services? So you're telling me it's not mandatory, but then you are then moving all of these services away from me. So is it really mandatory? You see, it's the same kind of trickery. What do you say about that, Miss McLean? Does it look similar to you?
No, it does. I think what it is that you're saying that you may or you may not do this, but it will be used, and then you realize it will be used within the public sector, but the private sector, and then you want to do transactions with certain corporate entities, and they say, but you need to have your card pinned, and so on. And as you say, then the government said, well, it's not us, but the private sector is utilizing it. So in essence, you are creating the mechanism for that to happen in the private sector domain and the public sector, but you're not coming and saying to the public, this is exactly what we want to do. This is the kind of time frame we anticipated. And then we, the public, would ask, but okay, if I have no choice in this pinning, and when I look at this card and I see this chip and I see this QR code, and I know from all the warnings I get online and from different entities. Be very careful how you utilize, how you scan QR codes and these kind of things, because you're opening yourself to data theft and all of this. Then you have to tell me what are the downsides of having this service. You understand? What are the dangers that I risk? It's okay to tell me, okay, we have systems, but then they can be hacked easily. Up to now, nobody has come and said to me, at least I haven't heard it, and the public, that all systems are go and working fine at the QEH after the hacking that they had.
Correct.
Recently, I had reason to speak to two people. One was a morning this week, and one was happened in the night. And the person turned up at the hospital in the morning, and they said to me, um, the staff were locked in and out and locked out. Now, it could be that you had some security emergency which necessitated that, and that may not necessarily be brought to the public's attention immediately, given the nature of what it was. Or it may be because, remember, to get in, if you're an employee and you're going through certain entrances, you got to use a swipe. But that swipe is controlled electronically. So that's part of some computerized system. So if there's a hacking and you can't get in, you can't get out. And all of that, as it would have been indicated today, leads a sense of trepidation, uncertainty, fear, worry, bother, anxiety about the security. What exactly is in other words, for example, right now, I have the card, as I told you and the public and wherever else would have heard. I would like to know, for example, as of this moment, what exactly is on that card in relation to my personal information. And I would respond to some man that I heard on the call-in program this afternoon when I came home, when I left you folks. And somebody was saying, and I think it was a woman as well, but you've got all your information out there on the internet. I go on the internet, and I do very little, if any, shopping online. I do not like the idea. Too many times people's credit cards have been hacked and so on. I do very little that. And I don't do more shopping outside of Barbados anyway, but I don't do that. So I choose what information I share. For example, sometimes I see things and you go online, you say, this looks interesting. And you say, I'm going to sign up. But then you see the kind of questions you ask, and I get out of there. Not my information. It's not that important. So I choose as a citizen to put what I want out there. But then you're telling me other kinds of things. Health information. This is a small society. Think of a person. I mean, people don't even like to talk about things like cancer, for example. Nowadays is different. People are more open. But think of somebody who had something like HIV and AIDS, and is being treated in the public service, in a hospital or the polyclinic or whatever facilities they have. And that information is part of his or her health information. And because I think somebody had shown how you can actually, scan from those cards, whatever, but somebody then picks up that information. And I don't like Mary Smith or John Brown, and I come across this information and I flash it out there. Or I send it to his or her employer because I got a beef against that person. Love it. Let's get real practical.
These are real concerns. And for somebody, this is why we ignore. Everybody ignore those people who are saying that this is political. Make sure you ignore them. It is to reduce your power. It is to stop your voice. It's so you not to say anything. It has nothing to do with that. Mr. Franklin, somebody just sent this to me. It says this is something called the Barbados Hall of Shame. Let me say where I got it from. And it said, did anyone else try today to change a pension check being issued now by NISS? That used to be issued before the Treasury Department at a post office and was told they're no longer cashing those checks, that they now have to be deposited on the person's bank account. I don't know if anybody out there has had that experience. When I asked the teller where this information came from, as I didn't see a press release from NISS or heard anything on the news stating this, she got the supervisor who told me it was a directive they received this morning, but not who issued the directive. I asked, how can it be fair that people only find this out when they reach the post office? How
Marcia,
can
these
this
people
be
are.
fair?
Madness.
Well, one
That
second,
is
Mr. Franklin. Let me just finish reading it. It says, how can this be fair to elderly persons who don't have a bank account and are immobile or disabled to implement this change without warning or public notice? Where are some of these elderly persons going to get money from this weekend to buy their groceries or pay their bills? I guess having all these seats gives this government the power to make changes to matters that affect people day to day living without even the courtesy of prior notice or assistance, especially for elderly persons who are immobile, computer illiterate, or don't have any family support to assist them. But talking about youth here, what can work well for you might not work well for someone else. And the person put hashtag freedom of choice. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
Marcia, these people are heartless. It is that it is as simple as that. Look at there. You know those old people have to go up there, and then they leave the post office and go straight to the market.
Yep. Pay the bills at the post office where they can.
Yeah, and then go straight to the supermarket. Now you're going to tell that person that he has to go and deposit his check in the bank. Now the banks are telling you unless there's a check drawn on an account at our bank, we can hold it,
For 3, 4, maybe 5 days.
right? So, and that's working days, mind you. So you go to there. If you have a bank account, because a lot of these people live from pension check to pension check, they got bank account.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what is
Exactly.
going to happen with them? You're going to force them to go and spend money to open an account because the bank's not making open an account. It's make you pay, right?
In addition to paying though, as well, you also remember that these banks charge fees for minimum deposits and link that to what you just said about living from pension check to
Pension
pension
check, the
check.
pension check,
So,
and
so,
and,
so
yeah, and the pension check. I've never heard a person tell me that they get too much pension yet. The pensions don't be big. Like for instance, if you were working in the public service and you work 33 and 30 years and you accept a gratuity, you then are reduced to living on half the salary that you used to get before. But when you were struggling along with the whole salary, you can struggle with half. Mind you might not go buy work clothes, and you might not got to go and buy lunch from the business. Don't you can cook in the morning and eat it twice at home. But the light bill's gone up drastically,
people may be still paying a mortgage.
you know. So what are these people doing? They take directives from people and do not understand our culture. I'll tell you something. The old people who go for these checks at the post office and cash them, it is not only cashing the check, it's socialization. They don't see about that body again every next month
Yeah.
till they get checks again. And they go up there and talk about themselves. How are you doing, Mark? How are you doing, Michael? How are you doing, Theophilus? And talk to one another because it is where these people gather to socialize, meet each other. You can be home by yourself now and let the check get to the bank.
You, you
But
know
you know
what?
what this is? You know what this is?
Oh,
This is to force you to get this card so you can use it with your bank account or whatever else, and then we become cashless. I don't trust the banks to go cashless. I don't trust the banks. I want my money in my hand. I prefer a few Grantley Adams, a few barrels and things, and I feel good. I do not want to hear beep and I got money and beep beep it gone. Because I have suffered where people have had my information and somebody in Louisiana and some other place
Spending.
spending my money, And people, and when they call the bank, they tell me, you traveled recently? I said, no, I left Barbados.
Hmm.
I ain't left Barbados at all. But somebody have my number. So now you publish all the people. I'm not telling you, look, when you call the bank for information, they ask you your name, and then they ask you a few questions. What is your ID card number? And you better answer it quick too. Don't fumble. So now I am hacking you, and I go into the bank, and they ask me, what's my number? Oh, I can blurt out yours. Because they publish everything online already. You can't unpublish them now.
Hmm.
And they got information out there now. And God knows when they can hack this card, when they can hack this database, because everything about this is hacked. So I do not trust this government. But Marcia, I'm sorry, I forget to congratulations today because I was here with tears in my eyes from the flu and from not being able to be there today. So one eye, both eyes were pouring, and, and but I was watching you on YouTube. I was watching you, and I was very impressed. I was very happy, and I said, "Thank God! Look, 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 look! See, this is a movement, and I don't care what they tell me. I don't care how much announcement they make after the press conference that the made decision yesterday. I don't believe that. I would have to see the cabinet secretary minutes.
But they also were warned. If you get the benefit of the doubt, they were warned from the earlier programs this week, though, because you
Yeah,
were
but I
talking
don't get, I
about.
don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Not them. I don't believe them. I don't believe
I
anything
was
they
saying,
say.
Marcia,
Mr. Franklin, I just to confirm what Miss Maxine is saying. Miss McLean is saying we started digging in from Monday and Wednesday.
yes,
We were going
yes.
all in. But continue, please. I'm sorry.
So I think that is a victory for the opposition. Whether they downplay or try to downplay or not, they cannot change what is in my heart. And that has gone to the heart, went to the head and straight to the heart. Look, Marcia, congratulations. We did it.
I
Congrats to
want to go back.
everybody. It was an idea that we I think Kimar, I
But
think he's getting something to eat. I can see him there. But
when I say we, the people's opposition, and I see myself as part of the people's opposition, we did it. Even though I was not there, I was there in spirit.
yes,
Yeah.
and
And you sent a very valuable question as
you
well.
sent a question there. You sent
I, I couldn't
anybody
help myself.
huh?
I couldn't help myself. I was there with I, I was there coughing and sneezing and thing, and fingers hitting the wrong thing. But I said, no, I got to get in this one. I couldn't help myself.
you know, you know, but what I'm hearing here, and I asked to check this out. The Reverend sent this to me, and I can say that I know he's trying to come on, and I said to him, "Can you check this out for me?" And he says he got it from somebody in, and we can't say where, but he really believes it because of who he got it in from, and he was saying that somebody showed the old ID and they refused to give that person service, and she threatened to take them to court. So we're not the only ones who brought up court, but apparently there's somebody that they brought. They went to there was some service that they did not get, even though it wasn't the 31st yet, and and that they threatened to take the government to court, which is what something that we started this on this program on Wednesday night. Actually, I think it's Mr. Charles Atkins or somebody who brought it up very strongly on the program. And this is why I'm saying, Miss McLean, that when I come on, I have to congratulate everyone because it is something that came
Mm.
from all of us. I remember you saying on the program, you said, well, let's get the questions and get them to government. Remember, you said that. Let's take the questions to government. And right there and then, Mr. Franklin, when I said the press conference, Mr. Franklin says, you can use unity. You know that, right? All of that started to come together. And it's not even what? It's not even what? 4 days. In 4 days, the opposition was able, to put this thing together. Everybody working together to make it happen. I see Kimar there. Let me see if he's ready. Give me a thumbs up, Kimar, if you're ready to come on. Yeah.
While you're waiting, Marcy, I would quickly want to go back to something somebody posted there about these banks, because I think Barbadians need to understand the disadvantages that they're putting pensioners to if they insist that they must put money in an account. Somebody put up that they were getting a disability and it was an amount of 352 something per month. Now think of that person. Why should he or she, because I don't remember the name, have to
It's
deposit that?
automotive art.
Right.
Automotive art.
Why would that individual have to deposit that? Now, first of all, to deposit, if they have no account, they have to go and put it in an account. The amount of money is not enough for that person to live on, I am sure. So it means that they have to withdraw all. And even if they left some, it would be way below the minimum that the bank is requiring, right? That they have as a minimum balance, and they will pay a fee. So the bank will either close the account and say we can't give you service, or they're going to charge you. Now, if that person is not able to use an ATM, let's say the person is visually impaired and would prefer not to give their information to somebody or the other and would want to go over the counter, the banks charge you for withdrawing over the counter. I think they were trying to charge you for every withdrawal recently, and the central bank might have stepped in relation to digital some transactions and said no. But this is it, 352 and $80.80. How are they going to be insisting that this individual put this in an account? Because by the time, the point I'm making, by the time they finish when they open, they will end up probably losing a good $20-25 in fees and all kinds of things out of their pension when they get, because first of all, and the other thing is, you, unless it is a direct deposit from government, in other words, government does not issue a check and they transfer the money. Um, if you take a check over the counter, you're gonna have to wait to get it cleared, and it can be up to 5 days, 5 working days, as Caswell pointed out. So again, this is an issue that people can talk a lot about. People don't want change, but the change, as we're hearing it unfold, will hurt people and hurt them severely.
Let me say something before we go to Kimar. I know of many instances where people were waiting for that check, did not have anything to eat, and the day that it come from the postman, they rushed down to their supermarket and they asked the guy to change it for him. The father said, man, I can't change it for you because this check, you, what, you're going to change it for Monday. The
Mm-hmm.
father said, man, I ain't got nothing to eat at all in the house. And the supermarket fella have a heart, take a chance. And you know what happened? Fella there Sunday night.
Got
So
refund the check.
so a supermarket man ended up holding a check that he can't cash. These are things that actually happen. And I'm not talking about once-off situation. You know, I used to work at National Insurance. I tell them I know what I'm talking about. And government is not seeing these things because sometimes these people out there hungry and they just got this pride that they don't want to beg or even ask people for things. And then when you like give the fella a check and he can't cash it till Monday, you know what that is? How hurt it, how hurt it, how hurt he would be simply because I got money, but I tell you worth nothing right now. It worth something for Monday, and I know I've seen it happen. So I tell this government to reel and come again. Start thinking poor. Start thinking about the poor. You know,
Pro poor.
yeah, I tell you something,
Pro
see,
poor.
and I'm not canvassing for Democratic Labour Party. I don't think they want me to.
I
But
will stop here.
but under the Democratic Labour Party, things like this wouldn't have happened, you know. They look, I remember when they were saying they were fighting to keep people in jobs. I'm born from national insurance. I'm born from central bank to pay salaries. Maxie, you can remember that you were there.
Yes.
And these people come in and say they're going to send home the money, and as soon as they get a job, 1,500 people gone. You know what I mean? But the Dems were holding up on them, you know. And some of them same people that the bees went home, get sent home, voted for them. Because they don't care. You gotta look out for the poor. And this government too high-minded, man. They don't take man about poor people. Poor people are there to be used. Full stop.
Yeah. Well,
They need to go.
it's time that they understand that that is not going. We're not going to sit back. We're not going to sit back and let them treat the elderly like that. We're not going to sit back and let poor people be treated like that. Kimar, good night, sir. How are you?
Hi, good night, everyone. Marcia,
Hello.
Maxine, Caswell, and to the
Good
members
night. Good night.
of the loyal opposition. Caswell, we missed you today. I must say that.
I miss you too. Trust me, I was here crying.
Really, really miss you, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
No.
had time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I was just saying, I had a really enjoyable time today at the press conference. Just want to show a round of applause and a congratulations to the entire team for a job well done.
Yeah, very well done. And at the can you describe the feeling that you had when everybody going up to share their questions and to make a presentation. You were the last one up, so you had the opportunity of watching everybody going up. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, nation, I think the message was quite sound and needed, gave me then the motivation to come because I had some very big shoes to fill, you know. Caswell was not present, so he was feeling a little like, oh, well, hey, but stepped up and did what we had to do, and we achieved results in less than 2 hours, you know.
So when you heard Kimar, I must say that you were very pointed in what you said, and you made can you just summarize what you said today? You made three main points to the government, and basically kind of send out a little threat there that something we discussed, and Mr. Franklin, that was supposed to be him to say it, but can you tell us, those who are watching, we just want to hear it again, like as though we didn't hear. But just tell them what you told the government today.
Yeah. But basically, we were asking what is the legal basis for having a deadline on the 31st of January. They did not consult with the people of Barbados in any way whatsoever with this ID. Had joint select committees for the child protection bill and all types of bills. But for some reason, you don't want discussion on the digital ID to rescind that date, take you to court. Because the safety and the privacy of Barbadians matter, and we cannot take away our constitutional rights to render us, people born in Barbados, and say to us that we're going to be stateless if we don't take a digital ID. So IDs don't expire. So why you want us to take one now that expires? And how could you say to us, take away your right to have social services, which means we can't go to the hospital without the ID, can't get on the transport board bus without a digital ID. Maybe children will not be allowed to go to school if they don't have digital IDs. What will happen to my job if I don't take a digital ID? Right? We hammered home the point to the government that you have stepped over the legal order that we have, and that is Constitution of Barbados, and you cannot do that. So we, the lawyer opposition, stepped up today and pointed directly to the government and stated to them that we will defend our constitutional right, not to be forced to take a mandatory digital ID one that has no legal basis. But you're coercing us by saying that you have to get it by 31st of January. Well, you said within 2 hours. This is the fastest I've ever seen in my life. That within 2 hours, the government could issue a statement and say that there was the deadline is no longer valid. And then on top of that, further comments came out from the minister saying that there's no deadline, period. Right? So they completely removed.
Really, I didn't see that there's no deadline.
Yes, yes. Further comments came out, and there's no deadline whatsoever. Right? I feel, Marcia, to believe. I fear to believe that cabinet met, according to them, yesterday to issue a statement 2 hours after our press conference. They said that the deadline has been removed. If they were being truthful, it is my belief and understanding that there was a post cabinet press conference yesterday, and no such announcements were made, none whatsoever. Right? They made no pronouncements in the post cabinet briefing, but they came to the people and said that they decided it yesterday. How come it didn't come on the news this morning? 5:30 news, the 6:30 news, the 7:30 news, the 8:30 news, down to brass stats to 12 o'clock news. It came at approximately 5 minutes to 2, which was long after our press conference. So I would say here that it was our contribution that forced the government and delivered the knockout punch in terms of rescinding that policy.
I am a Star
Correct,
Trek
correct.
fan. See, I am a Star Trek fan. So I'll tell you how it works. You know, in Star Trek, you can go back in time.
Yeah.
They went back. I had that. I had that thing yesterday. Yeah, that's all that can happen. But you see, you're too young for Star Trek. But you gotta watch. They're still there on YouTube and Netflix and stuff. You can watch them. You can see how people go back in time. So this government learned the trick. They don't have no price. No, this is yesterday. Don't let them fool you.
But
No, no.
somebody said that they wanted to hear the question as well that Mr. Franklin posed at the end of the he sent it and I had to read it. He says, could the government point out which law empowers them to declare that the current ID has been expired? Could the government point out which law empowers them to declare that the current ID has
Unexpired.
been expired? Yeah, and that was a knockout right there. That was like silence in the room when that one came, and it's a lot for them. It was loaded, and I'm a fighter, Miss McLean, and I believe that this door is just cracking this door. We're pushing. And I want the 583 of us on, almost 600 of us, to put our whole body weight on that door and start to push it down. Don't stop now. Don't stop now. I think that, Mr. Franklin, we will take the lead from you on this, but I believe that we should still pursue this legal action because we don't know what they're coming with. We don't know what they're coming with. We must start. Do not, and if they're listening, they need to understand, Mr. Franklin, that we are not going to sit down and wait to see what they're coming with. We're not,
We
because
can.
what they're doing is that they're throwing stuff. They're waiting, they're throwing out things, Miss McLean, and they're not thinking about what they're doing. They do it, and then if nobody says anything, they kind of just get away with it. There's no debate in Parliament anymore. Well, the all the people, the 280,000 of us, we go and debate it, right?
But you know,
We going to
Marcia,
debate it. Yes, Miss McLean.
I I I I don't understand how it is. Well, I mean, maybe I do. That you have third. Well, first of all, let me ask the question: does the tradition of parliamentary group still obtain? What that is for those who don't know. Normally, on a weekly basis, or members of the parliamentary group, in this case, it would be all third here. Then both parties would have it. They get together, and usually, well, in the case of the DLP, we had meetings on Monday nights before Parliament, because Parliament met typically on Tuesdays, and you would sit down and trash out strategies for Parliament before you got there in cabinet, because there's a
Mm-hmm,
process where to take a bill to Parliament, you have to write a cabinet paper, and the cabinet
okay.
paper was set out the reasons for it, the issues it's trying to address, and so on, background information and details about the rationale for the legislation and all of these things. They would come to cabinet, and we would discuss it. Even though I was
Mm-hmm,
in foreign affairs, I would speak to matters in agriculture or health or tourism or whatever, so that you understand. Because you then, as an MP, or in my case, as a minister in the Senate and lead a government business, I needed to understand the contents of the legislation. I need to understand why it was being brought, how it was going to facilitate particular government programming or government, whatever the case may be, and you discussed it, so that at the
mm-hmm,
end of the day, not only you were able to be able, you were in a position to say something. You would then go into Parliament, either in the House or the Senate, and speak to this. In fact, I know it now. I remember one opposition um, senator always used to say to me, "Mama, your people can't talk less." And this person is a minister now. And the
mm-hmm,
thing would be always like, why y'all taking so long? I said, we have to educate Bajans. This is our responsibility. I mean, sittings of the Senate would go on long. Some people I know believe that they're too long, but there's a prescription of an hour and whatever else in terms of how long you can speak. But for me, I might take up the time allocated to me, not just to talk for talking's sake, but to make
mm-hmm,
sure that when Barbadians listened or read coverage of what transpired in the Senate, they had a proper understanding of what the bill was for, you know, contents of it, and so on. But my question is, does anybody spend time looking at these things, thinking about the implications of it, challenging their colleagues, whether it be the prime minister, the minister of agriculture, the attorney general in this case, the minister responsible for national insurance, or whatever the case may be, or in this case the ID card. When we were looking at the national insurance provisions, do they spend time expressing, first of all, understanding the issues and expressing concerns as they relate to the concerns that their constituencies, in the case of MPs, would have? I mean, don't they have
mm-hmm.
grandparents? Don't they know poor people? Don't they understand the
Exactly.
rules of the commercial banks? The amount of fees that the governor, central bank, recently had to speak to plans to introduce even more fees. Haven't they looked in the paper and see the millions of dollars in profit that the commercial banking sector has made from fees? Don't they know what's going on around them? Why are they MPs to represent their constituents.
No, to get a pension.
Well, that probably too, but at the rate they go, well, I guess most of them now qualify anyhow. Well, not
Not
qualify,
yet, not yet,
not
not
yet. They
yet.
will qualify at the arrival at 8 years. But
Mhm.
I am really concerned that we are seeing, I call it haste, all hot and sweaty, to use the term that I was looking for earlier, and somebody graciously shared it. But not only that kind of stealth in bringing the legislation, but bringing legislation that they're sneaking in, that can be harmful to the people that put them there.
Yes, yes. And that's the sad thing about it, you know. And let me just bring Kimar in here again, because I think it is very, very, you talk a lot about our constitution, and I think it's a constitutional right. We need to understand that it is illegal for them to be saying we can't get public services that is we're due as citizens, because in essence, I was saying, you weren't on here earlier, Himar, but I was saying, in essence, this is like what they did with that thing in the arm, where the government themselves didn't say it was mandatory, but what they were doing is using the private sector to do that. And so now they're saying it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory to pin it, but then you can't get the services, right? And that is what we're saying is illegal. And it is because of that that we're saying that we're going to take them to court, right? Is that what we're saying, Kimar?
Yeah, well, I think the mandating of the ID. eh, Remember the language of the Attorney General, that is not mandatory, because in law it cannot be mandatory. Much like how they couldn't make the thing in your arm mandatory, they just couldn't.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
The landmark case that Caswell won, I come listen to him again, proves a lot more legal cases could come up on the government in the future based off that ruling. Because not only FIS was guilty of that, many other businesses in Barbados were guilty of firing employees in this country during that COVID pandemic because they refused to take jabs, or because they refused to take the COVID test. Right? The rationale for why I say so is because the Emergency Management Act that the government passed during COVID, which gave the Prime Minister in this country powers, believable powers, he essentially became a dictator. So, offering verbal directives to the country by saying, well, we're going to go ahead and set up what they were calling safe zones. So, ahead and set up safe zones. Issue
Yeah,
this contract. Issue this contract to repair A&E. Issue that contract to repair the Sun's Point. Uh, Issue a contract to turn over the Black Mongolia into a COVID center. Right? A lot of the powers that the Prime Minister had during that state of emergency were actually illegal. Most of the directives were illegal. So you saw even Michael Lashley challenging some of the instances for COVID violations. We saw we saw Caswell and Neil Marshall being involved in terms of challenging the government during that period. So if we review the 2 years that we spent unjustifiably so under a state of emergency, when the government got away with some of the most heinous and wicked violations of the Constitution of Barbados, well, the whole government will resign by the time we get through with the lawsuits, right? So this is no different. This is the same exact thing where the government is trying to manipulate words and language by saying it's not mandatory. And they only say that it's not mandatory because in law they cannot mandate people to adopt these, right? So if they do, by saying that there's a deadline that you have to get the card, the other card will expire And the funny thing about it, the digital ID has an expiration date on it, the blue one,
Right.
right? So the government also needs to come back, develop a further conversation with us about constitutional rights as it relates to citizenship in this country,
Yes.
right? So that is where they're stepping over the line. And constitutionally, they know that if this case go to court, there'll be specific facts that they have to swear, and they don't want that information coming out on them, because as we say, we had some serious resignations happening in this country politically.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
You
if
know,
our people behave honorably, but they don't. They lie in Parliament, and when they're caught, they shrug it off and move on. They accept money from third parties that trade with the government, and then when the checks get stolen, they admit that they got it and they get more besides, and they didn't resign. There is no behavior that will force these people to resign. They just you see, and the thing is, the prime minister is responsible for the behavior of our cabinet, because since we don't have a ministerial code, a documented ministerial code where ministers are bound, then the prime minister is supposed to ensure that her ministers behave with integrity. But the prime minister will say, case closed. When the law is clear, the law says that if you receive this money, there's a presumption of corruption. And so, in order to adjudicate a presumption of corruption, you gotta go to court. But the prime minister says, case closed, because she is DPP. Now, talking about DPP, I want to talk about something else, but I don't want to do that yet. DPP, because like I said, they got a new one. At least not in name, not in appointment, but in behavior. I will get to that when they talk about the new role matter. So we are
yeah.
not going to have these people behave. We will have to shut this place down and force them out, because they cannot run
Yeah.
Barbados by themselves.
And Mr. Franklin, I tell you that that's exactly what needs to happen. That is what it needs to happen. And we're going to segue into the Neil Rowe situation soon. But what I want to say here, Himar and Miss McLean and Mr. Franklin, I want to say here that it is not that we believe that the the little laminated ID that we have, because you have some people, they, I like to repeat this because you have some people, they just love to run with foolishness. That we're saying that, if we could think that we want to keep that kind of ID. No, we're not saying that. This is what I gather from what the citizens are saying, what the opposition, what we're saying. What we're saying is this: listen, give us an ID. We don't mind getting an updated ID because, I've seen people travel with my little ID overseas and they look at it and kind of throw it to the side because it's laminated and anybody can take that and do something with it, something fraudulent. We understand that. I would want a nice ID and feel good, that my ID look a certain way. Yes, I would want something that's updated, but what I did not sign up for is that I'm going to have an ID with a chip and I have to pin my ID and all of these kinds of things. I want to know, okay, so if you want to offer those kinds of services, go ahead and offer them, but do that with another card. Right, do that with another piece of technology. Do that with another system. Okay, do something else, and then give me the option. Okay, whether I want to do that or not, but just give me an ID. Why can't I just get an ID? That is really what we're saying. And as we're going forward, this is what we want. Those of you who are listening from the government, listen carefully to what we're saying. We just want an ID. And if you want to do something else, if you want to push with your world agenda, whatever, You give me an option. Don't have me
Mar-
and force me and tell me that I can't get no services. You're wrong. And for that, we're saying you continue with that. We're going to take you to court for it. Yes, Mr. Franklin.
Marcia, I must confess something to you. I was hoping that they didn't extend it. I'll tell you why. I do not have a passport right now. My passport has expired. It has expired for some time now. And
Mm.
I have the application forms and I'm waiting for the expiration of this thing to go in there with my old ID and let them refuse me so I can sue them. But they messed me up. You know, cause I, I wanted to sue them, because I don't have. If you ask me to go to St. Lucia tomorrow, I can't go because my passport has expired since 2021 or something. So, but because then I had an diplomatic passport, I said, well, I would make it because I wasn't traveling during COVID. And now I want to travel again. I said, well, look, let me wait till after the 31st because I know they're going to refuse me and I can get another case in court at them. And you know what happened? They said they extended. And they smell a rat. They smell a rat.
I believe that it's that court thing. They know it cannot stand up. And somebody's saying, how can a national ID have an expiration date? That's the same thing that Miss McLean had been saying and Team are saying. How can your citizenship expire in your country? It's nonsense. And it's another one of those, as Miss McLean said, hot and sweaty things that they're doing. And we are tired of it. We are tired of it.
Look, if you have an ID that is old and tattered and you can't recognize the fellow from it, yeah, you go and get an ID card because that don't look like you no more. Because mind you, I get cuter each time, and so the ID card might not look like me 20 years ago. So I don't mind you telling me get a new ID card, but don't
Right.
tell me that I got to pin it. I am not going to pin it. I am not going to do that because I do not understand why, and I like to understand why, and I hope that my little children used to um tell me every time I tell them something, they used to say why, why. They always ask questions. And people tell me, Casper, this fellow can be right. Don't stop him because these always ask
Well,
why. And I had
Mr. Franklin, I have to cut you there. Did you hear what the man on brass stack said? I wouldn't even call. I'm not going to call anybody's name. I have the recording when the gentleman, the elderly man, said to the brass stacks moderator, "Well, why should it be pinned?" And he said, "Because it's a law." That's what's recorded. The man asked why. If I have an
and the answer to
ID,
him,
the man said it's the law.
and I will say to him that slavery was the law. Grantley Adams had to pass legislation to stop people who live in plantation territories because you had to take them to work and the plantation with you, or they used to make you move your house. So you would have a house on the plantation land. They used to call it the Located Laborers Act. And if you lived on the plantation, you had to work there, and your children had to work there. So if you had a bright fella went to high school, you gotta come back and work on the plantation, or they used to make you move your house. So that was the law. You still want that law? Slavery was the law. So just telling me it's the law don't mean that it's right. It is moral. But sometimes if you don't know the answer to that question, what you should do is say, I really don't know. I will check and get back to you. Rather than feel all
Correct.
knowing.
There's this man here. Before we jump on, I want to show this picture, and everybody saw him on the road in his Pampers. I don't know how many of you saw this. Miss
I
McLean is
saw him.
laughing.
I saw him the day
And
before.
people think, and this man to me look like he's in his right mind. This man to me look like he's in his right mind. It's somebody
And
who is
and
just
and
sick and
articulate.
tired.
And articulate. Listen to what he was saying. He's not a fool up
And
there talking. He's
and
articulate.
this is where, Mr. Franklin, I want to say something here, and then I'm gonna shut up. This is where we need where we're gonna see Barbadians gonna reach here. They go outside in the underwear, they're tired. This is where you see how articulate he was, intelligent man, but sick and tired. They are his son. He believes his son is being abused and maligned and everything, and he decided to hit the streets and wear a pamper. The man is not mad, but this is where they are pushing us to get to here. And you hear what I tell you, Miss McLean. Our European Bajans are not passive. This is not passive. But he has reached a point where he said, enough is enough. And this government, these 30 of them, they're getting us to this point. Although we might have to, it might be 30 minus a couple. I hope it's minus a couple. You understand? That we are tired of them. This man here is really characterizing what Bajan's feeling right now. And then you're going to see what's going to happen. We're going to hit the streets. That's what's going to happen if this kind of nonsense doesn't stop. Go ahead, Mr. I've been cutting you off, and I'm done. I'm really done. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin or Kimar. I don't know who else
Be-
was saying something about this man.
I was just saying, I listened to him today outside the Ministry of Education because I only saw him on WhatsApp yesterday. I never know him, nothing about him. But today I listened to him and I said, this man is a fool. Listen to the words that he used. He's an educated man. Because I tell you something, he used words that I don't use simply because I don't like big words. So I'm sorry, he might know more big words than me because I don't know a lot of them. So he is not just an average idiot out there talking, And he's hurt, he's aggrieved because we have people in the Ministry of Education that don't want to do the job. If he is complaining for a situation at his school, he must be heard. Who was to say that he is wrong? Or at least if he's wrong, show him where he's wrong. Don't ignore him. This arrogance has to stop.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Neil Rowe, and I don't know, Miss McLean, you've seen our Kimar. Anybody can jump in. Um, uh, as we go on here about this situation and what we think is going to happen without you know um, saying anything that would put us in a court of law.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to start because I was this morning I pick up my paper.
yeah.
I get it very early, and I get up to blow my nose, and I should have really stopped. There it was. I don't look at anything. Um, I saw the newspaper this morning with Andrew Pilgrim on the front page saying that his client is still interested in the matter and that kind of stuff. And and I spoke to a lawyer about it because, as I say, I don't know everything, but I got certain understanding. And why is he there? They are making this thing a whole spectacle. And
Mhm.
all it is doing is to prejudice this case that can cause Nero not to get his day in court because I would say to them, look, if I were his lawyer, I would go to court and say, but look, all this publicity and stuff that he's giving this case with somebody at the level of Prime Minister, no, him, I can't get a fair trial. And then that will go to the Court of Appeal, and then the CCJ advocate it. Simply because I believe that this man is being disadvantaged by one, the government going to court, going to the highest court of the land, Parliament, and taking action against him 2 days before his
Mhm.
arraignment. That was bad. That was
Right.
nasty. You can't get lower than that. Then two, there again I have to get some also consultation on this because I understood what rescission was, and that's like dealing with contracts. Where you put when the two parties the contract can be implemented, then you rescind the contract, and parties go back to where they were. If you give a fellow money, you gotta get it back because the contract has been rescinded. That's rescission. That's how I understood it to be. I didn't know that you could do rescission of an appointment in the house. You can revoke it. You can revoke any appointment because there's general law that any person or anybody that can appoint can disappoint. So Parliament had the right to remove him as the deputy speaker, but you would have to revoke that appointment. Now, since they voted for something called rescission of that appointment, and there's no such thing, is Neil Ross still the the deputy speaker of the house because they did it incorrectly? I would go to court on that too if it were him, because you revoke a contract. You know, I've never heard of it. I mean, revoke an appointment. I've never heard it mentioned anywhere in the parliamentary rules that you can for rescission
Mm-hmm.
of an appointment. But I know today he goes to court, pleads not guilty, and Andrew Pilgrim gets up and say his client is still interested in the matter.
Who
Why
is
was
his
that?
client?
Huh?
His client is the other party into the case.
Is the virtual complainant the person
So why
who
is he there? Why is he there during that particular the arraignment? I'm trying
I
to
do not.
understand what normally happens.
Me too. That's right there. I want to understand what happens
It was
because the person who makes that determination would be the director of public prosecution. Because you can bring somebody before the police, and the case comes up, and then the person can say to the court, "I am no longer interested in the matter. I love the body now, and I don't want to sue them." The director of public prosecution says, "I don't care who you love. I still
case going
proceeding with
ahead.
this case because that is the only body in Barbados that has that kind of power." So when the judge dismisses the matter, I propose to dismiss the matter, the people can say, "Oh yeah, but go ahead. I ain't got a problem with that." But so when she comes out there, the people he could have come out there today and said, um, "My client still interested in the matter," and the DPP could have said, "Well, I ain't care much interested you are. This case is dismissed." And even go get a reason. That is the power of the director of public prosecutions. So I was saying, well, look, Andrew Pilgrim, know, like he becoming the director of public prosecutions. No, because I expected that role from the DPP, not him. If he is watching what is going on in the court, watch, hash him out, But he's a Queen's Counsel or King's Counsel or Senior Counsel or whatever they call themselves these days. That's another thing I want to talk about, but I can deal with that later. He has a right of audience in the courts. But because you got a right of audience, you got to get up and talk. All that does is to put another nail in Neil's raw coffin. It is not right. It is not fair. It is what they're doing to this man. If he is guilty of what is alleged about him, lock him up. But Kadir, let it be fair. Let it be
Serious.
fair.
Miss
You know,
McLean, thank you, Mr. Franklin. Miss McLean, there's a lot of talk about Neil Rose options. We're just talking. We don't know anything, and many are lots of wishful thinking. That can you imagine? If we have people crossing the floor and so on. I know. I don't know. You have any thoughts about that?
I I'm just making sure my mic was on. I've heard a lot of discussions about that. Um, it would be a very interesting scenario because I do not recall hearing Mr. Ross speak in Parliament more than maybe twice, and not for 5 minutes on either occasion. He might have spoken on other occasions. The other thing I realized, because I started to reflect on his position as deputy speaker, and it seems as though he was never given an opportunity. I think they would probably suspend the sitting if the speaker had to leave the chair rather than pause and let the deputy take over. I've said that to in the context of what I would expect um, an opposition, because if he crossed, then he would become the leader of the opposition. If he were sitting as an independent for the duration of the life of the parliament, or but I somebody has a recommendation as putting Mr. Caswell back in, my friend Mr. Franklin back in the Senate, and that would be good because it's largely because of him that I would take time to listen to the Senate debates because I didn't bother much with the House. But it would I'm just trying to picture him in that role because, as I said, he never really had the chance. He was given the opportunity, or the public was shielded, or he was shielded from taking on the task of acting speaker, but because they would always suspend or whatever, end the sitting or whatever, adjourn what. So I really would want to know if he did that, because if he did it, he becomes entitled to those. So in other words, you might find that you can coach him. I trust. I mean, if he did that to speak, because if you have two senators in the Senate, then they would have parliamentary group meetings to discuss the issues, and perhaps then. But all I can describe that would be a very interesting scenario playing out.
It would be interesting, and I believe because a lot of these issues, that we are discussing on here, would be what we would be hearing in Parliament. A lot of
So
these bills and so on. You would have a debate. You will hear the other side. You will hear things, presented, and then the public can. But we don't have that. So it will be, as you said, quite interesting, and it will be good for the nation because at least you have robust discussion. Hopefully, if it happens, they're getting me a little excited.
Well, no, that is why I worry, because I don't anticipate, based on all that I have seen and heard from Mr. Rowe, that he would be a robust opposition in the House unless he's properly coached and he's amenable to coaching and all of that. I don't know.
Which
Maybe
I mean, we
Kimar
don't
can
we
speak
don't
on
know.
this.
Yeah, Kimar. He might have some friends to go with him. We don't know. I'm ready to do the motorcade. I'm ready to. Anyhow, this happened. Lord have mercy, Miss McLean. I tell you, I go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They better take by my passport because I tell you, I will do a motorcade in this country. But anyway, over to
Kimar.
over to Kimar. Kimar, what's your speculation about? Will we get an opposition in Parliament soon? You're feeling it?
Well, the current circumstance, um, like I said, the government moved soft. Well, not the government, the Barbados, they were probably moved soft and wimpy, but just taking him out as speaker. And I would dare say tonight, it was almost an illegal removal of the deputy speaker of the House because the standing orders of the House of Parliament, they do not speak the removal of a speaker. To be removed from the chair, you either have to die or you have to resign. But there's no set procedure in place for the removal of deputy speaker. The standing orders don't speak to it, and if they do, it's not in great detail that there's a statute procedure, right? So they need to come out and clarify based on the law. The first time that they tried it, when they announced Cynthia for it didn't work. So they took almost a year and some to come back to this position. But they cannot say that they're removing him from the position. He has to step back from the position. And the fact that he was on leave and they ripped him out the system while he was on leave, it shows that there's a nasty move to completely remove him from the Parliament of Barbados because I had no legal justification to remove him. If you're saying that he has a personal issue, you, the leader of the Parliament, determine that a man's personal issue, you're going to intervene and to remove him from a constitutionally appointed position. Right? He probably should have been the same way how he got it. He should have been removed. Whereas they put it up to a vote in Parliament, ask the same MPs who voted in if they were going to vote him out. But the fact that they just announced that he was going to be removed, and when Sonia Brown questioned it, the Speaker of the House said that the only thing up for debate is the appointment of Miss Ford. So you shut down the debate on it because they know what they did was wrong on all bases. The removal, the I'm not begging for any justification for Neil. I'm not saying that anything that I'm focusing on the process and how he was removed. Right.
Right.
So I ask the government to show us the standing orders of Barbados, which I ask them if they follow those procedures in removing Nero from the deputy speakership. Right?
I'll tell you something. Um, like I said earlier, anybody that appoints can disappoint. The House appointed him as deputy speaker. So even if there's not a procedure, they still have the power to do it. What they must do is to give him the right to be heard, natural justice. They shouldn't be able to do it behind his back. Because if he, let's say he was sending his sickness papers all the time and not coming to the house, what they can do after a while, they say, we're being given more sick leave. And he gone. So that would have gotten rid of him from the house, period. But he was on genuine sick leave. So why rush at the 11th hour and move him? There is something sinister.
Yeah.
Again, let me stress, put my disclaimer here. I do not know the man. I only know what I saw in public domain when he couldn't read and that kind of thing. And that's why I was shocked to see that he was speaker but deputy speaker rather. But that again was the government motley doing, making sure that all her people get a big pick, right? Because I remember as a young man growing up, we had a lot of backbenchers, you know. No, we got a house that is full of ministers, so the parliament is rendered useless because everything the cabinet decides has to be approved in the house because all of them will come down and approve it. That is not democracy. That's not the Westminster system that we always talk about. But she made sure everybody get a minister pick, and then they left back a few people to form to do the offices in the house, chairman of committees, um, speaker and deputy speaker. Mind you, since they have appointed chairman of committees, who should chair the House Running Committee, they went they went behind everybody back and appoint another set of chairman of committees, and get them the big bucks. Get about $9,000 a month now for doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But they created more posts of chairman of committees. You just only need one. But you see, that Mayor feels that she has to buy people off and give them something. But if she wants to buy them with her money, I got no problem with that. But she is buying them with the public money. And that's where I have a problem. Because you are going to make some person a chairman of committees that don't want the committees to chair, or that the committees don't really do the work. And you think that you got to have extra chairman of committees? For what? The speaker chairs the committee of the whole house. If it, and as the chairman of committees, when the house go into committee, the speaker leaves his chair and the chairman get there and they sit down and all they do is say, I beg to move that clause 1 stand part. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. And you say that for the entire bill. What should happen there is that during that session there should be debate on those clauses. The boy don't debate nothing. Mine is already
Right.
made up. So it is not necessary or useful. But they're fleecing. I'm using the word fleece.
Mm-hmm.
Fleecing the state, the government, because they are appointed too many people to do too few things. Mayor said, many hands make light work. We got a situation now where they got so many hands that some of them have got the work to do. But to draw salary. That is the level of governance that we have. That the government of Barbados now become Mayor Motley's plaything. That she can do whatever she like with this in her little gollywog or little dolly or whatever this got these days. But she rides roughshod over everything. And her will, whether it is sensible or not, will always prevail because they're frightened for her. That is the problem.
Yeah. Kimar, what would I don't know. I getting excited, of the possibilities, and truthfully, because Miss McLean, I want to see Barbados. I don't want to see another bill go through Parliament and the Senate like what has been happening. We need, you need something going on there, something to slow it down. And Kimar, what would that look like in your mind? In your what would, if we were to get an opposition, do you think, let's just imagine for a moment, can we just dream, how many of them you think will go over on that side? You think we're gonna have any crossing of the floor? By anybody would join Mr. Rowe if he decides to go?
Nope.
Well, well, I don't know if Nero wanted to cross it, well, he probably could have months ago. Could have or should have for Anthony Joseph actually crossed the floor. However, um, then the Barbados Labour Party removed him from speakership, but they did not remove him as the Barbados Labour Party member
Mm.
in the House. So he still sits as the BLP candidate in the House of Parliament. So until he sits in the House as an independent, there's
Hmm.
two ways. Either he leaves on his own free will and sits across the floor and becomes the only independent member, therefore opposition leader. They restrict him and remove him of Barbados Labour Party status, and then he naturally becomes an independent MP, and therefore opposition leaders was either he will jump or they will push him. So as far as I know, if he goes, some people wait, if he goes, Some people may be thinking about joining him, but I don't think that they will join him because they will miss the money from the minister's pay and the money from the head of this and the money from that committee and right? Because they don't want to drop from being paid $20,000 a month, $18,000 a month, to being paid no $6,000 a month as a backbencher, right? So even if he crosses the floor, everybody else is being well taken care of, right? So I can tell you based off the speeches of Ralph Thorne, an excellent opposition leader, if he had the ideas of crossing. I admire Ralph Thorne, and they say that openly on the show constantly. Sonia Brown, I, I, I admire her strength. Sometimes I worry about Brown's radicalness as a person. I heard Dr. In Parliament saying that if she had her way, she would lick
What do
down
you mean? You say you worry for her radicalness because she seems like she. That's how it appeared. I'm like, this lady is she serious? You know, I mean, talk about that. Why do you worry about that?
because I heard her making a statement on the floor of Parliament that if she had her way, she would lick down every single block in Barbados because they're a source.
Did she talk about rebuilding?
I know what we're going to say. Lick them down. They're all source. They need to go.
I don't know, Marcy, if I could jump in here. I don't
Yes,
share
yes.
I
I
don't
love
share
her. I
your
love
I
her.
don't share your enthusiasm. Look, the
Okay.
reality is that if any, well, Dr. Brown, we have heard her speak her mind, and in relation to the, she was a doctor in private practice, and as a member of the opposition, you can continue to work in your career. Um, Mr. Rowe does not have what it takes to take on his former colleagues if he were to become a former colleague, if he were to cross the floor. My thinking is, notwithstanding what happens in Parliament, that, see, what you're doing here is what perhaps we have to look at the end of the day, because I'm looking at your concern, not about the politics, no, but about the responses to government legislation as they bring it to Parliament. Because your concern for me really is, and we can get back to the party politics part of it, all right. But
Yes.
to me, I go periodically and check the Parliament's website because you can see pending legislation. And so you have an idea of what are the bills that government is proposing to bring. Of course, let me enter a quick caveat there, or reality check. A lot of what government has brought to Parliament was the same day. Caswell can speak to the days he was in the Senate and complain time and time again that his first sight of the bill was when he turned up in the Senate chamber to start debate at 11 o'clock. But I would say to Barbadians, pay some attention to what is on there and read those pieces of legislation. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, I think part of what's happened, I mean, whether it is, I mean, this particular piece of legislation, as Caswell pointed out, came when he was missing, when Senator Tate was missing, when Senator Drake was missing. And they took it and they ran it through,
Hmm.
clearly saying to the public, notwithstanding its importance to you, we doing we own thing. And this is how we're going to do it, get it there, and so on. So I am saying that a demand should be made to government to follow what is the standard procedure. There are occasions when it may be necessary to rush a piece of legislation, but in the absence of a mechanism to properly vet that,
Hmm.
before it is debated, And in the absence of, or in the presence, let me put it that way, of the 30 members in Parliament where many cooks spoil the broth, 'cause I don't think what they like hands. They like the hands are like that. They catch the work, you know. I mean, it just the work just dropped through the fingers or something. I don't know. There's a need for us as citizens to pay attention. I don't have any. Y'all seem optimistic. I am not a pessimist, but I'm a realist, and I don't see anything coming out of there. I have not heard contributions from Dr. Brown, from more. In fact, all right, let me finish the point and then come back to the point that I was going to interrupt myself to make. I haven't heard serious debate generally, whether it is from those parliamentarians who were there for a long time, Cynthia Ford, the Attorney General, Kerry Simmons, the Prime Minister herself, because she's often missing when debates are taking place. We have to remember that. A lot of debates take place in her absence. Legislation is passed and we don't hear from the Prime Minister, even when she was in opposition. You know, if I could digress and take you back there, there was legislation relating to domestic violence. The Prime Minister wasn't present for the debate. And we know that as a society, domestic violence is perpetrated primarily against women. And this was an opposition then, which boasted of having so many female members, but a piece of legislation which impacted women probably more so than it would have from the point of view of victims. It was not important enough for her to participate. So I don't expect that overnight, coming back to present, that you will find any robust contribution coming from whoever crossed the floor. I don't see it happening. I don't think if you observe what happened when um, Bishop Atherley was over there, it is a lot of work on your own. And I don't think
Yeah.
that they will tell them to sign up for that. And I don't see that happening. But I in the absence of that, I will say that we have to. This is something I do. As I said, I go and I look to see what the matters are. I research them,
Yes.
and sometimes I suffer through to hear some of the debate. As I said, the other thing that I want people to do as we talk about who's present, I want people to monitor their MPs. I and I would say to anybody, go on Parliament's website and view former sittings of the House of Assembly and tell me what percentage of the sittings had at least two-thirds, 20 members of those 30 present consistently during a particular sitting. Because whenever I am looking, what I see is a smattering of MPs in the chamber. And we do not hear that they are traveling on government business. In fact, that's another issue, that the tradition of informing the public where ministers are going and who will be acting and so on is not done in a systematic way. So I don't look for any significant changes in the lackluster. In fact, let me use the words of former Prime Minister, a late Prime Minister Oinatha, what has become a very poor Reiki parliament. In the Senate,
Poor Reiki.
poor Reiki, that was Prime Minister Arthur's word. He used it to describe his opponents. But I tell you something, if he were to comment, no, if he were able to comment, he would tell you he can illustrate in all seriousness that it leaves a lot to be desired. And you would expect, or you would hope, that in a situation where they have, I would call it, responsibility for all the constituencies, in the sense that they have all the seats, that they would take more time doing that. You know.
Yeah. Well,
Somebody says you can't call them debates, so I accept that.
monologue marathons. Yeah. But Mr. Newton is here. Nigel
Mhm.
Newton, and I don't know if he's still listening, but I have him in the studio, and he was talking tonight about the duty of the citizens, the duty of responsible citizenship. And while I would get excited if there's something like that, any crossing of the floor and so on, but the truth is that it really comes down to us as citizens, and that is what Ms. McLean is really, really saying tonight. That listen, we can't hold out for any wishful thinking that these things are gonna this is gonna happen. Pete Way say we need to respond to any government debates in quotation, press conference, policies, and do not wait till a year later to be surprised when realize the bill or policy impacts us. And I agree with Pete Way. I agree with Pete Way. We if we did get a little crossing over there, it would help to strengthen what we're doing. If you get like a Ralph Thorne and the same Sonia Brown who have some spunk there, she's got some guts. She's one lady with a lot of guts. I have to say, Sonia Brown is somebody that I admired. I was sorry that she'd stopped talking. I hope she'll continue speaking. But all in all, it still comes back to us and Nigel, the duty of responsible citizenship. Would you agree, Nigel? You're muted, sir.
Are you hearing me
Yes.
now? Okay.
Yes, we are.
Yes, I would agree with that because I think over the last 5 years or so, um, governance has become an embarrassment. We don't see any statesmanship. We don't see any statecraft. Um, there is no sense of nationalism, anything whatsoever. It's just, to me, it seems like a bunch of hooligans just doing what they want to do. And I think that we as citizens now, given the deplorable state of governance in Barbados, I think we need to step up to the plate and do something about our country because we can't trust the government any longer. We can't trust them, and they're not acting responsible. Okay, and I think that yes, we the citizens going to have to do as what we did today. You know, not only the people's opposition and the few who are here regularly, but the whole nation, so to speak, going to have to step up. You know, and honestly, I don't think that any member crossing the floor I think we need to in fact, I think what Barbados needs now is to do away with political parties and just have a group of concerned citizens who are dedicated to leading this country in place until we can sort this country out. Because clearly the political parties have failed. They have failed. Parliamentarians have failed us tremendously. And I think the citizens need to come together and do something for the good of their country.
Yes, and I think this is Trisha Watson who exemplifies what you're talking about, the duty of responsible citizenship. Trisha Watson, who stood up and spoken out, about the concerns of citizens. She's one person who is very exemplary in that way. And she says Barbados voters need to visit Parliament's website and post their opinions on bills before the House. I was able to precipitate that for bills, perhaps for the first time since the existence of the Parliament website, by opening our mouths and exercising our right to express ourselves. We can force our MPs to listen and to respond. Yes, citizen activism. Yes, yes, yes. And I think, Nigel, Trisha is agreeing with you here that, we need to continue what we're doing and add to it. Write your MPs, go and visit the Parliament website, put your opinions up on there. There are over 600 of us, almost 700 was on tonight. Guys, we can make a difference. Those of you who watch a little later, it's not what the country can do for us, but it's what we can do for the country. And that's what happened today with all of those citizens coming together and letting their voices be heard. And I believe let them tremble a bit. Let them tremble a bit.
Yes.
I think that's what happened today.
Governance is not a one-sided issue. Governance is not only about parliamentarians making decisions. This is this is a nation, and each individual citizen has a right to participate in the governance of the country, because all decisions are going to be affecting each one of us. Okay? And
Mhm.
therefore, we have a moral duty and an obligation to be interested in the governance of our country and participate. And in the event that the government oversteps its designated power and authority, then we have a right to call them to account.
Yes, yes. And as Angela is saying, you have a vote and you have a voice. Mr. Stewart, before we go tonight, what do you say to the people of Barbados? We are closing off talking about the duty of responsible citizenship. And that's what you did today. You didn't stand up as a party member today, Mr. Stewart. You stood up as a citizen and with a voice of the people. What are your final thoughts tonight, Mr. Stewart, to the citizens of Barbados?
Yeah, well, we do it out of joy and for love of the country. Hello, man. Uh, did it with the Jobby Water scenario. Uh, we did it with the NAS and as well. We did it with the Child Protection Bill. We did it with the ID system. We did it with the fuel adjustment clause. And we will continue to do it. You know, the people of this country. We're going even further through the region. We become regional players and representing for issues in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Tobago, because last time we had Watson Juke uh, in Tobago. So this will eventually grow to a regional fight. And that was part of the vision of our fathers of Barbados. And we will continue to fight in the name of our forefathers and continue to fight in the name of future generations, Marcia, and continue to fight for the members here at the loyal opposition, for anybody who wants to come and make Barbados and the Caribbean your home. Just know that you have people, Self Marcia and Nigel and Maxine and Caswell and Pastor Ferdinand, all the members of the loyal opposition who turn up to march every time, every time we have a show, who like, who share, who give feedback, who give monetary contributions, who give time and energy to helping the movement grow into a strong collective system of people power and people governance based in political parties. That is a revolutionary movement that I want to see replicated throughout the entire Caribbean. So that is my contribution for tonight. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Miss McLean, what can you say to the citizens of Barbados? I was so proud of you being there, ma'am. And as somebody said, so diplomatic, because that's what you did in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we felt safe with you there. We felt good to have you there. You were not feeling 100%. We want to talk about all your business. And she's not
That's all
dying.
right.
She's not dying.
No,
But
I will tell you what it is. I had a procedure which at the end of the day will help me to see better to read the bills that come before us. I had
but
I had
but you
surgery.
were there. You were there, and your love for country is contagious. I have to tell you that.
And
And I want to say to you, ma'am, you're an example, Miss McLean. You're an example. can you what do you want to say to the citizens of Barbados tonight?
I will say what you have on here. We have a duty to be responsible citizens. And I want to thank my friend Mr. Newton for sharing his very serious contributions recently. Because I think people, Barbados has become very polarized along
Yeah.
political lines. And I think it is very unfortunate. I made the statement here one on one of the shows that and this came to me in a conversation at a funeral, um, and I was talking to a former member of parliament, a former minister under the Barbados Labour Party, and he said to me that the funeral we were attending was of a man who was a very close friend of his, but who was from the time he met him was a member of the Democratic Labour Party, supported the DLP, and he said to his colleagues, "We are not enemies, we are political opponents." But I say to Barbadians, we as citizens have a duty to be responsible citizens. And that responsibility means being able to sit down and pay attention to those things that matter, those things that are political. And because I hate to hear people use the word political to suggest we are being partisan. There are matters which fall under what I call a political label, which are things that touch us. And therefore, we have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other to pay attention because as we can see, if we ignore, we do so at our own peril, and things will happen to us, and then we have to sit down and take it. I was browsing through here when, as I spoke just now, I went and I pulled up the list of matters before the parliament, and I see a couple of things, and I would just share them and stop. There's something here. It looks like there's a facilitation of international maritime traffic bill, which is out there. There's something called the cyber crime bill 2023. It was notice was given, but from what I see, it is not yet debated. And that is something very much related to the matters we were talking. So I just say pay attention to your own business. And my mantra I will share with you because it applies in all kinds of right as policy matters and legislative initiatives are political. And we are political beings, whether we're acted upon and we act within a political arena. And my last word is there's power in pooling, whether it is pooling our thoughts as we're doing now, our commitment to make a difference. And so that's my mantra that I live by, whether it is within my family circle, and other circles in which I am, and it certainly applies here as well. And
Yes,
thank you,
thank
and
you.
thank everybody who continue to say how many people tonight? About 600, you say almost.
Yeah, it was almost a 600 and a lot at one stage, over 650 people tonight.
And that
Um,
that is unusual. That's new in Barbados. Take it from me.
yes, yes,
That's
yes,
new.
on a Friday night. Hurricane Writer says, the nation come first. It is above all politics and all parties. And oh my goodness, that is the heart there. That is the heart there.
One quick word, and she flashed on the screen and then it disappeared. I want to say kudos to Trisha Watson.
Yes, she's here. Yes.
What Trisha Watson is doing, I saw my brother do for 3 decades or so. It is not easy. There's little thank yous. Unfortunately, when he's getting a lot of thank yous, 20, almost 24 years. Next month will be 24 years ago that he died. But people still call his name. Trisha has 40 plus 50 more years or whatever else he lived.
Yes,
And I
we're
can see her
grateful.
smiling in the picture. She's probably smiling at me saying that. But I
No,
really
but
want
we're
to say
grateful
thank
to
you
her, and she's an
because she has
inspiration
been
as
taking
well.
on a battle, and not only a battle in which the people who sit on the other side will be earning literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees from the utilities companies. And that may be low in the scheme of things, given that I'm talking about my brother doing this as far as 55 years ago. So
Yeah.
kudos
So,
to all of you.
Trisha, we honor you. We honor you, Trisha, and you got the most influential person of the year, and you deserve that. We honor
And the
you, and we
controversial one.
and I'm the most controversial. You need to come on the show. We need to come on the show. We had a little mishap there, but I think you're very much welcome to come on the show. We're not pushing any party, and that's the truth. It's all about us standing up for our country. And we need to go to Mr. The general
Franklin.
so that we can close out properly. General, when we talk about selflessness, I have learned that from you since I've started on this journey. We've met, I mean, it has just cemented what I experienced from researching on Barrow and doing the movie, and how that research and movie has touched my life. And you've come along and have really cemented that whole concept of being selfless and loving the country and working for the country. What do you want to say to the citizens of Barbados with these two great things that happened? The tribunal win there, and then with today's press conference. What do you say to Barbados, Mr. Franklin?
I want to say, and I was thinking about it for a while, I want to say to you, everyone matters. Do not think that your small numbers, because the Prime Minister has said there's just a few people that are marching, but these few people out there marching has given them pause for thought, if nothing more. But we know they're giving them pause for other things. They've listened because they've actually pulled back the date. They've listened because they went and they do over the National Insurance Act, even though they did it wrong again. But at least they were listening. So we can make a difference. Don't think that because it is just you and want to do that. That guy who marched, who demonstrated today, we listened. You can make a difference. And if you doubt it, look what happened today. Little old me, we make and with one of again, so it made a difference. We we were able to tell the government and Hill Millen and the Ministry of Health and all kind of stuff that you can't do that. You know, and but don't be afraid. What keeps you back from standing up is fear. But the only
Yes,
thing you have to fear is fear itself, because they can't do you anything if you stand together. I do a little bit of teaching ever so often. I don't know much, but a little bit I know. I try to teach people, and I do industrial relations things sometimes. And every time I step into a room to teach people about industrial relations, I walk in with a box of matches. And I take one match from the box, and the first person I find is to break that. And everybody look at me like I'm a clown, you know. And the body, I said, no, break it. And they break it, and they give them two. I said, break them, and they break them. Then I took a handful, and they put them together. I said, no, hold them again and break them. And they're trying the best to get those matches broken. I said, see the problem? When you're together, they can't break you. We have to stick together.
mm, yes,
And once we stick together, the government will have to take notice
yes,
and
yes,
behave,
yes,
because they
yes.
had no opposition. Because and the thing is, they had a little bit of opposition the last time, and they did their best to get rid of it because
Mm,
they want no opposition. And when you want no opposition, it is like a person who runs an institution in Barbados who will take vacation. He's doing something wrong. I will tell you who that person is. Another program. Don't want to do that thing. I haven't taken vacation for 3 years, and But if you stand up, you will be counted. They might not
yeah.
like you, but you'll be
You know,
counted.
and I just wanted to end the show with this picture. And no, this is not a joke. This is not
It's a
for to
serious
tease
business.
this man in the pump or anything. But this is our inspiration here, guys. This is our inspiration. Anytime again you see a
Yeah.
march or a protest or anything that they ask your citizens to stand up, stand up. Here is this man standing alone. intelligent man take off his clothes for his son and in a pamper, right? In a pamper, speaking volumes here. And this is how we end tonight. The duty of responsible citizenship. That sometimes it looks like this. Good night, everybody. We love you all. Thank you so much, Nigel Newton, for coming on. Thank you so much, Miss Maxine McLean, for coming, and thank you, Kimar Stewart, for being on tonight, and thank you, Mr. Caswell Franklin. As much as I know you're not feeling 100%, but you make sure that that you're still here. We thank you so very very much, and we wish you all the best, and hope that you will speedy recovery, speedy recovery. All right. God bless you all, and thank you to everybody who tuned in
Good night.
tonight. Can't have the show without you all. Angela, Beverly, Judith, Pete Way, Mystic Angel, Pete Way. We're gonna deal with that. We're gonna deal with that Constitution. Angela Knight, everybody, Gelbiz, the whole everybody, Omar Gibson, Neville Brathwaite, so many of you, X Square 4, Pedro Gemmet, God bless you, Trisha Watson, God bless you all. Have a good night. We love you. See you on Sunday. Bye bye.